great day and we get great golf, you could be getting 2, 3, 4 of those cards. So get to Nick and Jake's. Nobody does sports on the TVs. Definitely nobody does golf on the TVs like Nick and Jake. So go see him. Curtis is right there at 135th and Metcalf. You will have a ball. Now, we're going to move quickly here. We've got a number of things we want to talk about. The story breaking today. This is something we've been talking about really all week, that this was coming sooner rather than later. It is now official that Kansas City, Missouri has its economic engine to make it go, to make it work, not make it go. I think this is it. This is the plan. I've been saying for months, the only person that's involved in this is Washington Square Park. It was crystal clear when we heard the comments from John Sherman from opening day that just was like, maybe some in Kansas. The Northland, yeah. That it was clear that Kansas City, Missouri was where this was going. The city council meeting is underway as we speak, or at least should be if it's on time, where the new, what would you call it? I mean, financing engine, I'll call it, is going to be put through and put in place by Mayor Lucas. We're hoping to talk to Mayor Lucas at some point today. I say hope because you never know what happens with people's schedules. But I want to give you some of the highlights of what this project is. New stadium, team offices, and supporting infrastructure in the Washington Square Park / Crown Center area. I'm being told that Crown Center may very well be sold as part of this to the Royals. Whether they would just take that in as part of their operations, would they knock it down? Would they strip it and keep the tower part and add to it for a hotel? But I've had some rumblings that is not part of this agreement. But it's one of the things I've been told was in the discussion part as we came down to the finals of this, and the fact that in the agreement it says for the design, construction, operations of a new stadium, team offices, and supporting infrastructure in the Washington Square Park / Crown Center area. The fact that the Crown Center part is mentioned makes me think that there is a part of that is in this, that area will become part of the Royals' domain as well. Cannot confirm that, but I just wanted to add that in as I go through the highlights of this. Tax increment financing plan for the project, right? So it'll be a TIF project from the city. Apply for various financial and tax incentives through state agencies. I'll get to some of those here in a minute. Here are some of the highlights that you need to know. The Royals organization represents, I think this is important because this is we hear all the time, we see articles written, sports teams paying him is just an economic disaster for everybody out there. You know, like they just draw money away. We don't need them. Well, not according to what Mayor Lucas is putting out there. He says, the Kansas City Royals organization represents more than a baseball team, but serves as an important institution that unites the community, provides educational and charitable programs, and contributes significantly to the region's tourism, hospitality, and entertainment sectors. I just think it's of note that in this official document, that is how he describes the Royals. In no way, shape, or form is the mayor saying that they are a drag on the economy. You know, so I think that's an important distinction, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to point that out because you hear a lot of it. That is how it is being viewed. I'll also point out that they lost the Chiefs. Kansas obviously didn't think the Chiefs were an economic drag, and they're now circling the wagons and going to put, I'll get to the number here in a minute, but $600 million of taxpayer money into keeping the Royals. They clearly see it as a benefit. Okay? Now, it can be debated. I'm not telling you that's a fact. You go into so many layers to find that out, but I'm just telling you that this is clear that Kansas City, Missouri says having the Royals is an important part and generates revenue for the area, for the region. The state of Missouri has passed the Show Me Sports Investment Act, which provides state funding of up to 50% of the total project cost for stadium projects that cost at least $500 million in connection with Major League Baseball and the NFL. So, I want to read that. Project that costs at least $500 million. Pays 50%. Now, I think the things that we want to know, that we want to hear from Mayor Lucas is that 50% of the entire project that includes the entertainment district and everything around it, or is that just 50% of the cost of the stadium? Right? Either way, we're going to get to the amount on the project. Either way, it's going to mean half of either the whole project, which in this it states, I'll get to in a minute, $1.9 billion to be the expected cost, If that's the case, that's $950 million from the state. My assumption is it's just for the stadium, so they're going to have to carve out how much of this is stadium cost. The number that was being used a couple of years ago when the tax was voted was about $1 billion for the stadium and about $1 billion for the entertainment area. So if that's the case, it would be $500 million coming from the state. The development of a new stadium and associated stadium district. So they are making it clear that they're going to build the district as well. It sounds like the state or the city money will include the district. Again, I'm not sure if the state money does, but it doesn't really matter. What do they care? Whether you pay for the stadium and they get, they're going to get 1.15, which I think is going to be the total tax dollars. They're going to get $1.15 billion. What do they care whether they're buying the surrounding ballpark district or they're buying the stadium? Either way, they're getting the money, right? But I do think it's important to note, because if it's 50% of the entire project, then the state of Missouri's cost will be $950 million. I don't think that's the case. I think the state of Missouri will be in for about $500 to $600 million. That the cost of the stadium is going to be listed at $900 to $1.2 billion on this, so that's where it'll be. Other things this thing says. Draw tourism to the city and state, encourage recreation and educational opportunities for children in Missouri, enhance the Kansas City parks and boulevard system, and contribute to a vibrant, dense, walkable urban atmosphere. The parks. There's going to be some kind of, and I'll get to it here in a minute, community benefits part of the equation. Some of the things that are in it. The estimated cost of the project, $1.9 billion. The city, through this TIF, will contribute $600 million. The lease of the stadium to the Kansas City Royals for a period of not less than 30 years. So it will be a minimum of 30 years. Here's something that I think we want to hear from Mayor Lucas at some point. Responsibility, it just states in here, I'm going to read the paragraph how it would read legally, because there's different sections of it, but it says, the city manager is hereby directed to negotiate and execute a term sheet to retain the Kansas City Royals in Kansas City. The terms of the term sheet may include, but shall not be limited to, the following elements. 1, it says responsibility for the design and construction of the stadium, ancillary development, and necessary infrastructure, support including pedestrian bridges, transportation access, utility upgrades, traffic improvements, and similar infrastructure projects. But it doesn't say that's the city's responsibility, or is that the Royals' responsibility? Frankly, I'm no lawyer, but I've done a handful of contracts. I've been involved in a lawsuit. I've led some legal documents, and I'm surprised that it does not clearly specify city responsible for or Royals responsible for. So I think that's going to be interesting, because you could interpret this one way, that the Royals are responsible for infrastructure costs. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the city is going to be giving $600 million to the Royals and paying infrastructure costs, would be my guess. But again, I think that is a vague way of putting it in this piece. We'll want to know that. Specific deadlines for the stadium and team office design. They're not stated here, but it is assumed that there will be a deadline negotiated and given. So we're not sitting around and waiting 5 years for you to keep making up your mind. Presumably, and my understanding is the Royals have had one of the architecture firms, Populous, I believe, that has already been working on this, and they should have something to go very soon. But it does note that there will be a deadline for when that will come together. So I think that's important. Terms of the lease, commitments to land acquisition, agreed upon conveyance of that. So it's talking about all kind, getting the land, but then purchase agreements, leases, easements, street vacations. That doesn't mean taking a vacation on the street. It means vacating a street. Remember the little fun we had before the vote 2 years ago where they were deciding whether or not they were or weren't going to close the street? That is listed in here, that will be part of the an encroachment agreements, what they're going to be encroaching upon. That's an important part of the equation because they're going to be near the railroad tracks. And railroads are very particular about how close you put anything to where their trains are moving. So I think that's an important part of this. Responsibility for construction of parking facilities and coordination with existing businesses regarding parking rights. If you're coordinating with the existing businesses regarding parking rights, you're planning on using some of their lots. And when do we get control of it? When do you got to get your people out so that we can open it up for a ball game tonight and use your parking lot? There's going to be a tax exemption for materials. The city will provide a tax exemption for materials. Community benefits to the Kansas City Parks and Boulevard system and public engagement. So there does have to be something that the community is going to benefit. My assumption is the Royals will build a park somewhere, or maybe not even close to it. There's talk about pools, parks. There's going to be something that the Royals have to build that the community can use that doesn't have anything to do with the stadium, right? Meaningful consultation with existing businesses in the area regarding those parking rights, access arrangements, and operational considerations. Hey, we got a game day at 6:40. At 3 we're shutting down the streets. So get your folks out, and don't be planning on opening your doors for business, or we're going to make this one way. And so your people aren't going to be able to come and go. Well, they've got to sit, and they've got to negotiate that with the people around there. So the businesses around there will have a part of it. Here's where I say $1.15 billion. That's if it would end up being $500 million on a $1 billion project from the state. But there's another $50 million. The city manager is directed to file an application with the Missouri Development Finance Board in an amount not to exceed $50 million for funding of a portion of the project through state tax credit for contribution program. So there's another $50 million. $600 from the city, $50 million from the state program, in addition to the 50% cost on the stadium. Those are the particulars, okay? It is the Washington Square Park location. The city is behind it. There will be no, and I can tell you that as recent as a couple of weeks ago, there were some rumblings that they might make a run at a Jackson County tax. Again, just rumblings. Nobody put their name to it. This has no Jackson County tax. There will be no vote by the taxpayers. They will not have a say. It just needs to pass the government institutions, and then this will be laid out there. What I've been told by folks in and around the Royals organization is that an announcement is coming soon. This is that announcement. The Royals are not party to this. This right now is just a Kansas City, Missouri announcement, but I don't think this is being put together and put on paper because the Royals are like, wow, first we've heard of it. We'll have to take a look and see if we like it. I guarantee you this was written in accordance with the Kansas City Royals, side by side on what they need, what they expect, and what the project will be. I think the Royals are a glorified rubber stamp once this is official. Again, Mayor Lucas is in a city council meeting right now. This is being put out there. The expectation is that it will go through whatever channels it needs to go through there, and this will become the financing plan along with the money from the state, two different pools of money, the 50% on stadium cost. I'm assuming it's just going to be stadium cost and not the whole project, and the $50 million from that other entity, plus $600 million from the Kansas City Royals. You now know where the Royals are going. When do they have to have the designs in? I don't think that's going to be a problem. What I've been told is that they're a long way down the road of whatever the design would be, and designs for this location. So that should be out soon. I think everybody's going to be on the edge. They better hit a home run with it, because I don't think anybody wants to hear we're giving you $600 million and then see a plan that sucks. Okay? And it needs to be buttoned up. I do like that there's a deadline on it, but this doesn't state what the deadline is. I hope it's not a year from now. My assumption is it's going to be a lot sooner than later. My assumption is the Royals probably have those plans close to, if not already, buttoned up. Now, infrastructure. That'll be interesting. There's just the plumbing and electrical and things you need to put a baseball park there. Flush the toilets, run the water, everything you need. But I am going to be curious what the infrastructure is on how you're going to get the people there. Does infrastructure start to include expansion of the trolley, or what do we call it, streetcar? Is that now going to expand all the way to the plaza? It goes to, I think it goes, does it start in Brookside? Curtis, do you know? Does it start in Brookside?
I'm not sure. I've only been on it once.
Okay, I can't remember if it starts at UMKC down the plaza, but we'll go to Brookside, we'll go to Waldo, we'll make its way all the way to 435 to try to make that a way to get people in there. Will there need to be widening of streets? Will there be highway access that, you come off one of the highways and it dumps you right into that area? I don't know. There's still a lot to do, still a lot to figure out, but I think we have our location. The part that it is exclusively If adopted, this is an exclusive negotiation between the Royals and Kansas City, Missouri. There can be no talk with Kansas. There can be no talk with the Northland. That is out, assuming this is done, and I believe it'll be done this afternoon. That's the bottom line. Go ahead, Curtis.
There can be only one.
Yes. Can be only one site. It is the Washington Square Park. I'm interested. We waited a long time for this. Like we said, almost 2 years to the day. I think it's 2 years and 7 days since the vote was voted down. John Sherman has said all along it's very important to get this right. This is a generational decision. We have to get it right. And they have taken their time, and presumably they now have it right. It sounds to me, if the number of $1.9 billion is correct, and they are going to have upwards of $1.15 billion in financing from the state and the city, that this is a better deal for the Royals than the one that was going to be voted on. And so, they're getting more money from taxpayers than I think it was going to be the last time, where I believe, wasn't it? It was going to be 50% is my recollection. The other thing that we need to find out is who's on the hook for cost overruns. Because there ain't been a one of these things that's ever been built for the number they said. All right? So who's on the hook for cost overruns? The city's amount is capped at $600 million, but the state's amount, again, if it's 50% on any number you want to spend, then it sounds to me like the overruns would be 50% on the taxpayers. Unless there is a cap on that, that's something we'll have to find out from the state later on. 913-3810810, the phone number, 913-3810810. We know where the ballpark is going. I believe that is the case. Hopefully we'll get some of these details ironed out when we talk to Mayor Quentin Lucas a little bit later on. We've been told that we're going to talk to him, but, kind of like no stadium comes in on budget. I don't know how often you talk to a politician on time. So we're trying. We'll see what we can get done. And I ain't guessing on that one. I'll just tell you, for those that know the code of things I put out there on the radio, I ain't guessing on that one. 913-3810810, the phone number, 913-3810810. I am jealous as hell because Kurtis is at Nick and Jake's. I have not heard any celebration, have not heard an eagle. But any eagle on 13 or 15, you're going to be getting a $15 gift card at Nick and Jake's. There's no better place in Kansas City to celebrate the Masters than at Nick and Jake's. 3 locations. Find the one nearest you by going to nickandjakes.com. Find Kurtis at the 135th and Metcalf location right there on the northeast corner, right out in front of the hen house. Get to Nick and Jake's and enjoy you some Masters. We'll keep you up to date on everything going on with the Royals' new stadium plan. All right, Crush, Jax, hang on. I'm coming to you. We're going to take your calls here in a minute. 913-810-810, the phone number. Bethany, Stephen St. John, they're down covering the city council meeting, and Stephen St. John, part of the quick Q&A with Mayor Lucas. They are now in that meeting. It started about 15 minutes late. Before it, he addressed the media. Stephen St. John there getting this back for us. This is Lucas, Mayor Lucas, answering questions before the city council meeting.
I think hey, what's up, brother? Good to see you. I think it's an exciting day for Kansas City. We'll have more to share afterwards, but, this is us moving forward on the future of baseball, the future of downtown Kansas City, and I think the future of our region. A fair deal for our taxpayers, and frankly, good collaboration with all of our partners from the state of Missouri. Talked to the Jackson County executive today. We continue to talk to the Kansas City Royals.
How much money are you talking about from the city to?
We're looking at $600 million. That would be basically funded through economic activity redirections, I think sales taxes from the stadium itself. For people who ask, how do you come up with that number? The way you do is that we have Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City today. This is based on good conservative estimates as to how we could deliver a great baseball deal.
How quickly could this be finalized? If everything goes the way you want, how quickly could everything be finalized?
We'll be up before City Council and the Parks Board on Tuesday. We certainly hope for a favorable passage there. And then, I think we're pretty much off to the races. We've had a lot of good chats with the team. We've had a lot of good chats with the community. But my goal is that we have a stadium open for opening day in 2030. So we're looking at April of 2030. That's a quick time frame. We're hoping for a groundbreaking at least first quarter of 2027. That's kind of the layout that we have, and I think those are things that we can keep if we can keep our approvals going.
Sir, you mentioned the Parks Board. Previously, you indicated that you were kind of interested in following the same model as the Chicago Bears,
Yep.
or the Parks District
Yep,
there.
yep.
Do you see the Park District as being the one that oversees them as the tenant, and then as the landlord,
Yes.
and the Royals as the tenant?
Yeah, our idea is that this is a Parks asset. This will remain part of the Park system. Soldier Field is the absolute model that we have. You look at Parks amenities both in Kansas City and St. Louis, we have things like that as well. And so this would continue to be something that not just is part of the Park system, but where the community benefits accrue to parks and recreation throughout our region. That's the way that you see this being a benefit not just to downtown, but frankly all throughout the city.
The Show Me Sports Investment Act requires that local component, so
Yep.
it sounds like this would fulfill that. But what are the next steps with the state funding, and do you know how much you anticipate there?
We've had great conversations with the governor. I'll leave it to the state to share how much they would expect to put in, but this is not something that's coming out of whole cloth. This is, I think, everybody saying we're excited to work together. We're excited to see baseball, and I think good alignment of the state, the city, our partners at the county, and frankly, we're going to have, I think, some positive steps ahead.
So there will be money from the county?
You know what? I let them talk to that. I think what we've delivered and introduced today is an ordinance that can deliver a good baseball stadium to downtown Kansas City. To the extent that there's additional investment from other sources, you'll certainly have to talk to them. But, the deal that we have laid out looks to public-private participation with the city, the state of Missouri, and the Kansas City Royals.
public vote
I got
2 years
to
ago?
run, but I'll be back at the end.
All right, there it is. Stephen St. John, Bethany Bowman for us down there. We'll get some of the video out there on social media here shortly as they've been staking out City Hall here throughout the morning and into the afternoon. There you heard Mayor Lucas talking about it. I think interesting there. I talked about the county. You got plenty of money. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of money without the county. But if the county's going to come on board as well, and he said, I'm not going to comment on that. That's not my, part of the equation. But if the Royals would be able to go and just extend the sales tax that's currently in place for the Royals and Chiefs and give all that money to the Royals, I mean, we're talking about, again, another $400 or $500 million. I mean, this project could end up being largely funded by taxpayer money. I don't anticipate that happening, but there is going to have to be, somebody's going to have to figure out in this equation. The other thing that's not in here is what are you doing? The Chiefs are leaving. And there's nothing, as my understanding, there's nothing in their current lease that says they got to do anything about tear down. And the Royals will be leaving. So what are you going to do with that area, and who's going to help fund tearing that area down? So that may be where the county comes on board. Okay, we'll step in. We'll help you with some tear down and some cost here, but you got to help with what we're doing over here in building things. I don't know. We'll see where that goes. The mayor having no comment. Not really, just not like, oh, no comment. I know something, but I'm not saying anything. Just like, that's not my department. That's the county. We've got plenty of money, you said, to build a great ballpark. So here we sit. 913-810-810, waiting patiently. Great baseball fan. Our buddy Crush. You're in the program, Crush. What's going on, buddy?
Thank you, sir. Hey, I never have said that I want the teams to leave. I've always talked to you about whether I agree with public funding. That's it. That doesn't mean I don't want the team.
Sure.
So Jackson County voted no as a part of that. Kansas did not vote yes. And there's been a couple issues at the Wyandotte and Johnson County, even for the headquarters or whatever that's going to happen in Johnson County. And there's not been a vote. And I just would like to reiterate that we have a lot of issues, and we got a shortage of money. And my political friends, I happen to be a Republican. I like Mayor Lucas. I believe in him. I like the guy. I think he's genuine. Some people aren't going to like that I say this. Hey, let's figure it out. Without public money. I mean, we have sewage issues in Kansas City. I could keep going. I love you, man. Keep it up.
All right, I appreciate it, Crush, and thank you. And listen, I will tell you, I agree. I would love for the teams to build their buildings, right? And I think that is what would be just and right in the world. It happens in bigger markets that the teams generate more revenue and their value goes up. In other words, they're a better investment. It is better if you have the money to buy the Los Angeles Rams than it is the Kansas City Chiefs. It's better to own the Dodgers than it is the Royals. That's a reality. And so I'm with you 100%. I wish zero tax dollars were going to any of these stadiums. All right, but here's the reality. Do you want Major League Baseball or do you want NFL football? In market 32, 33, whatever we are now. And by the way, we're falling down that list. Other towns are growing faster. We've got two of the big four sports. Two. We've been told we might get NBA. We're not. We've been told we might get NHL. We're not. Okay? And so do you like having these teams in your community? Cities our size have to pony up to keep these teams, or they can move to other places. So I'm with you. I hear you, brother. I don't like paying it either, but I don't want to lose the Royals and Chiefs. I think they bring a quality of life. Even if you can't dollar for dollar say, here's the money that went in, here's the money coming out. I tend to think they do bring in at least an equal return for what is invested in them. But I think the quality of life and what it brings with other job opportunities, companies staying here. I mean, you know, the Rams left. And who was playing? Was it the Zone that played the broadcast? There was a national broadcast, or was it the Mets? Was it the Mets broadcast? It was Mets Cardinals, and they were talking about what a ghost town downtown St. Louis is. I mean, that no one's there. No one's down there. There's nothing going on there. Part of it's because they lost the Rams. They still have the Cardinals, which should be. And it's a cautionary tale to say, well, wait a minute, so the Cardinals are downtown and their downtown's not vibrant and packed? Yes, you need to understand that. This is not a waving of a wand that will fix any and all problems that may happen in your downtown. You simply have to make the decision, are they an asset? Is Royals baseball and Chiefs football an asset for the area? And if it is, then what you have to do in a market this size is you got to pay for it. And what you need to do is get as many things as you can for the community. That's where Lucas talks about it being part of the park system. And, you know, if you've ever been to Soldier Field, it's this big giant park that has the stadium in the middle of it, but there's other things going on that are all part of the equation. You know, and that's the hope. I will tell you, it is a 100%. While I believe John Sherman and every owner of the Kansas City Royals genuinely has a want and a desire to do whatever is best for Kansas City, they are still party to a cash grab. There's no way around it. The question is, do you want big league baseball in your town? You can move to Omaha or Des Moines or Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma City has NBA. But you can move to other towns that don't have the big four sports and aren't putting this kind of money into building these facilities. But if you want these things, this is how it has to happen, right? That any market like over 20 or maybe even over 15, maybe even over 10 is putting public money into these buildings. It's only a handful that the owners actually go and pay for it all. That's it. That's just We can piss and moan about it and bitch and moan about it all we want, but that's the reality of how this works. 913-810-810. Jax, you're on the program. What's up, buddy?
Soren, what's up, buddy? Hey, great day for Kansas City, man.
I think so.
Yeah, no doubt. First of all, just to let you know, the streetcar does end at UMKC, basically 50th and Brookside. The new extension is to go to Current Landing over on the Riverside part of it or on the riverfront part of it is scheduled next month or so. So it'll literally be from the river to the Ruse will be the streetcar going right past, of course, this spot in Washington Square Park, which will also open up the opportunity, because they've already studied to run that streetcar also down to 18th and Vine. So you got another hotel, you got a big parking garage down there. So when you start talking about expanding the footprint for parking, if everything works out with the streetcar, you can go all the way from the river to the Ruse and even the 18th and Vine in order to find somewhere to park. So this is a good opportunity for the Royals, a good opportunity for the city, and I'm very excited about what's going to happen and looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great deal for us as a community as well. So appreciate your time, bro, as always.
Jax, I appreciate your call, man. It's good to hear from you. Don't be a stranger, my friend. And I'm with you. I mean, I think it's a positive. And I'll go back to what we talked about. And I know we got Kurtis. We're kind of playing the levels game, but I know Kurtis is at Nick and Jake's. By the way, I'll remind you, $15 gift cards can be yours every time somebody hits an eagle on 13 or 15 at Nick and Jake's, the best place in town to watch the Masters. I will tell you that. Let's go back and Kurtis, how long have we been talking about the ideal scenario would be to have one stadium in Kansas and one stadium in Missouri to split the cost up to where one city, county, and state is not on the hook for all of it?
I think you've been talking about it and us as a team for several years. It's back far enough that I couldn't
It's back
give
to
you
the
an exact
renovations.
number.
It goes back to when they
that's
renovated.
09.
That was the first time I said
08,
one of
09.
these should be in Kansas, and then you can, because to me, I think you've got a better chance to do it right and have a long-term answer if you've got one state that's on the hook for just one team and another state that's on the hook for the other. Instead of trying to, it was a great landmark approach to doing things when the Truman Sports Complex was built, but now the immense cost and the fact that our city is the size it is, this is going to be, I think, the healthiest for the entire metro community, but also the healthiest approach for both the Royals and Chiefs.
Yeah. Remember, they broke ground on that thing in 1968. I was 2.
Yeah.
Different game back then.
Yeah. I hope that what we're talking about is, more than 30 years. But I'm going to point something out. Who did I just read? Oh, the Eagles are 23 years in to their stadium, and they're already talking about a new stadium. They're already ready to go back, which puts them in timeline to go through as we've been through this process, as we're talking about 2030. And we first heard John Sherman talking about this in 2019 was the oldest cut that Todd Lebo played for us a couple of weeks ago. Puts him in line to be looking for a new building at the 30-year mark. I'm hopeful. I'm not optimistic, but I'm hopeful that each of these buildings that will be built will last longer than 30 years. But at least you're on for 30 years.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Now
go
ahead, Chris.
I think it was in Sam's story that they said they want to break ground next year and have it open by opening day on
Mayor
30.
Lucas said it. Stephen was down there
quick.
and sent us back the audio. Mayor Lucas said they'd like to first quarter of 27, opening day of 30, which, as Sam has said a number of times, the quickest has been 39 months, 3 years and 3 months. The Atlanta Braves built their stadium. So you'd be looking at something similar. If you can put shovels in the ground on January 1 and you can equal that timeline, then you would be ready to go on April 1 of 2030. But that is equaling the fastest a ballpark has ever been built. And I'm going to tell you, all the stuff around it would absolutely not be done.
No. And it also speaks to the idea that the Royals, the idea, they're good with this.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have that kind of a timeline if you think you got to haggle with them for 5 months.
Right. 913-381-0810. Let's talk to Zach. You're in the program, Zach. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, Soren? How are you?
Good, man. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think every plan is going to have its warts and its flaws, but I'm a big fan of this idea. I love the Washington Square Park spot. And the thing that I love to hear from Quentin Lucas is the idea that some of this money is going to be going back into the parks. I live in South Kansas City. I have 3 daughters, 8, 5, and 7 months old, and Kansas City parks are horrible. I mean, every time we go to a playground, it's Johnson County because that's where all the great parks are. That's where all the awesome playgrounds are. You go to Minor Park, you go to some of these other Kansas City parks, and they're just run down. They're beat up. The crown jewel, I guess you could say, is Loose Park, but even it gets dirty and trashed, and it just does not compete with some of the Johnson County parks. And so I love that idea, too, of, hey, some of this money can go back into revitalizing different areas of the city with the parks for kiddos and families. And I love the idea of taking my kids on the streetcar to go down and watch a baseball game. I think that's super exciting.
I do, too. And I think if this city is going to continue, none of us want it to become Manhattan. All right, I think we like living in a smaller city. But if it's going to continue to grow and have more growth downtown, have more companies come to Kansas City, provide more job opportunities, pay in more tax, then there are things you got to keep up with. And I think having reasons to get on that streetcar is huge because I'm going to tell you, mass transit at some point is going to be something every city has to deal with. And if this helps, get us new lines, go in different directions on that, and we get more mass transit, I agree. And listen, as somebody I've got, girls that are 19 and almost 16, so our days of going to the parks are over. But you're 100% correct. I mean, it is an absolute treasure to take your kids to a quality park. And we drove a long way to find them and drove to parks that were a long way away because the kids like certain amenities that are there. So, yes, hopefully that will be a part of this equation as well, Zach.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate the time.
All right, appreciate the call. 913-381-0810, the phone number. We'll take a break. Talk more about what is still to come. Kansas City Royals looking like they are in the final stages of getting what they want to put together a new stadium there at the Washington Square Park Crown Center area. We'll talk more about it. Take your phone calls, 913-381-0810. Hit me up on Twitter, at Soren Petro. Kurtis Seaboldt is live at Nick and Jake's, where you've got all kinds of Masters fare, all kinds of sandwiches, food, at Masters prices. Enjoy that. Also, you can win a $15 gift card every single time somebody hits an eagle on 13 or 15. Kevin Timmons is going to give you a $15 gift card. Everybody in the place, all 3 locations, the best place to watch the Masters, it's Nick and Jake's. Find them online at nickandjakes.com.
The program with Soren Petro.
He is not a journalist in the normal sense of the word. He's a columnist, and he's a person who dispenses opinion.
Weekdays from 2 to 6 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, listen, I know when it comes to buying a car, that's a major purchase. That's why I want to go someplace where somebody cares that I'm coming in there, right, that actually values my business. Look, it's not easy to find someone you can trust with a vehicle. It means a lot, right? You've got your family riding in there. It's how you get to work. It's how you provide for your family. Everybody needs a car, and they need peace of mind when they get a car. That's why so many people keep coming back to Roberts Robinson Chevrolet GMC. Listen, it's not just about the sale, right? It's about trust. It's about dependability. And knowing that you're going to be taken care of even after you drive off the lot. That's why I go to Roberts Robinson Chevrolet GMC. They're absolutely fantastic. From the service department, they'll even come pick up the vehicle. You need service? We had this done. My daughter's car needed oil change, needed some sensors fixed. Roberts Robinson came, picked up the vehicle, did the service, brought it back. Could not have been easier. They take care of you even after you leave the lot. And don't forget, it's truck month. Right now, you can get in on some incredible deals on trucks like the Silverado, Sierra, and Colorado. That's right, the Chevy Silverado. If your truck is your office, you can't do better than this vehicle. And you can't get a better deal than you can right now at Roberts Robinson. Go to robertsrobinson.com. That's robertsrobinson.com. And don't forget, ask about their buy 3 tires, get the 4th for just $1 at Roberts Robinson, the dealer you can trust. They just make it so easy at Roberts Robinson. Find them online right now at robertsrobinson.com.
Paid for client portrayal and endorsement. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Give me one good reason why I should call DM.
You're listening to the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Nick and Jake's the place to be. Royals look like they're staying in Kansas City, Missouri. Taking your phone calls at 913-381-810. You can hit me up on the Twitter at Soren Petro, SORENPETRO. Kurtis is at Nick and Jake's at 135th and Metcalf. And I want to be clear, the $15 gift card is for food purchases. So, but every time there's an Eagle, you get a $15 gift card that you can use towards the towards food, and we've got one, right?
We do have one. Just a little while ago, Nikolai Højgaard, not to be confused with Rasmus Højgaard, who I assume is a relation, but possibly not. He hit an Eagle on 13 and sent Nick and Jake's into a frenzy.
Yeah, that's what happens. It is an absolute party. If you're looking for the best place in town to watch the Masters, get to one of your local Nick and Jake's. Kurtis is there at 135th and Metcalf. It is a great place to watch golf. Lots of golf fans there, lots of green, people wearing their Masters gear. The only place better to watch the Masters is Augusta National. Get to your local Nick and Jake's. Right now, get you a pimento cheese sandwich. You can buy 10 of them with a gift card. 10, but they're $1.50. So use your gift card, you buy 10 pimento cheese sandwiches. Kurtis, you've already eaten what, 7? Is that what I was told?
Kyle said I was down, so I took a big giant bite of the one I'm eating right now.
Nice.
I have an egg salad one waiting for me, though.
I love it. You're busted.
So good.
It is. They do a great job. It is Nick and Jake's, the place to be for the Masters. We're taking your phone calls right now at 913-381-810. We go next to CJ. You're on the program, CJ. What's going on?
Hey, sir. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Yeah, I'm from Johnson County, so I think I'm probably like most of the people, really excited that they finally got this worked out. I think I heard you say something a couple callers ago about how we were promised, 20 years ago when the Sprint Center got built downtown, about us getting promised NBA, NHL. And I think if the downtown stadium and the streetcar and everything works out, we could actually see a 3 or 4 team in Kansas City if everything works out with this project. So that's pretty exciting.
Why? Why do you think that gets us? I mean, it's going to be Vegas and Seattle for the NBA. I haven't heard anything about the NHL expanding.
I don't think we'd get NBA. I think NHL is probably more realistic.
Okay. Why do you think that this project will help that?
If you have something downtown already, that you have a system built that works, you've already got the Sprint Center, which is probably outdated, but I think it could show that you could potentially get something.
That's, I do think as we get more infrastructure, that does make it better, but I think you hit on something that nobody wants to hear. The T-Mobile Center ain't new, right? And
oh no, they'd have to rebuild something.
Well, they'd have to rebuild it, and you'd have to do exactly what you're doing right now with the Royals. Nobody is going to come here and just go into a building. Everybody wants, we talked about this when the Phoenix Coyotes were leaving, that what they kept wanting out of Phoenix and what they ultimately got in Salt Lake City was to control acres and acres and acres of land around their building where they can generate a ton of money that has nothing to do with anyone going to watch hockey. And so if there's going to be an NHL team here, you're going to have to give up, and you're going to put it where T-Mobile Center is, you're going to give up blocks and blocks of land. I mean, maybe that's where ultimately the East Village comes into play. Maybe that's 18th and Vine on down the road. I mean, I would never say never, but I will bet you a lot of money my fat ass ain't talking about sports on the radio whenever that happens.
Oh, probably. I'd say if this works out, maybe 20 years out, it could happen. I mean, I do think
that'd be great. I might actually still be here.
We'll never be a Manhattan, and you're right. We'll never be like a huge, but we are a central hub, and we've already got. We're in the central of the country. We've got north central and south central covered with Chicago and Dallas. So I think presumably Kansas City will grow into that bigger realm.
I hope so. I hope that the owners, expand the leagues, because I think everybody. I think you should. I would like to see, everybody have a fairly quick trip to be able to see professional sports. Right, and so I hope that continues to grow, but I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to let you go. I appreciate the call, CJ. One of the things they don't want to do, why they don't want to expand, because to me, listen, you should pay off the Jets and Giants owners and the Dodgers and Angels owners. You should add 2 teams to L.A. You should add 4 more teams in each league to New York. People ask me, like, when I say, well, I think you need to go to 40 as soon as possible. Not overnight, but you can do it. Like, well, where would you put them? Have you not seen how many teams play in London in the EPL, and they're fine? Like, New York is the most underserved sports market in America, and what everybody should do, if you were actually in it for the good of the game and growing the sport, just like we're going to do whatever it takes, you would shove 4 more teams down the throat of New York and divvy it up. And because they've got the population, they've got the money, they could do it. It would be a no-brainer. And then strategically pick your other towns. I'd be all for it. Will Kansas City get there one day? I hope so, but I'm not completely convinced that greed won't always win out. And that, nope, if we add teams, my franchise, even though I get $1 billion or you know what, each owner gets $250 million off an expansion fee or whatever it end up being, $200 million, $100 million, free money just for an expansion fee. They're all more thinking about what the cost is, what they're going to get when they sell the team, and fewer teams means it's a more hotly unique commodity that drives the price up. Like, it took a lot. Formula One, I know this is different, but those race teams are spend a ton of money. And they've had 10 teams, 20 cars on the track, that at one point, I don't even know when you go back how many cars they had. And they did not want to expand because buying the teams, the price, there's only 10 of them. So the price was exorbitant. They finally expanded to an 11th team, but it took basically General Motors being a part of it, the Cadillac team coming in and doing it. And that's kind of the mindset where other people are. Now, for me, I think the NFL, if they want to play every night of the week, they need more commercial inventory. They need more games. You want to keep charging me for the Sunday ticket? I better have more than just, 3 extra games in the 12 o'clock window because you're playing it every other time of the day on every holiday week. 913-810-810. James, you're on the program. What's up, James?
Hey, Petro, long-time listener, big fan.
Thank you, sir. What's on your mind?
Outside Kansas City, and I'm an old guy, but I had you hit a couple nerve spots with me that I wanted to throw out there. One, as just a small-town fan, I watched the World Baseball Classic, and I saw the Royals players for different countries and got a lot of enjoyment out of that because I could actually watch them on TV. But it puzzles me that all our players who did so well in the World Classic come back and our season starts, and all of a sudden they can't hit. And I'm thinking, what's the difference?
The difference is, I'd have to go back and look, but some of the guys that they're hitting off of are not big leaguers. When you
I thought the World Classic was like the premier players.
Well, it is the premier players, but teams like, I know there were a lot of big leaguers on Team Italy, but one guy was like I can't remember what his.
The leadoff guy was a Mariners prospect, I want to believe.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some minor leaguers, and there are also some guys that don't even play baseball here in America. But listen, when you played Venezuela, when you played Dominican Republic, when you played Puerto Rico, even Canada,
you're playing some real.
Yeah. I mean, and it's frustrating, but that's baseball. Who the hell knows why guys can hit sometimes and not other times?
And related to that, I'm a novice, but it seemed to me last year the Royals' biggest problem was lack of offense, lack of hitting. And guess where we are? We're now starting a new season, and to me it looks like they haven't done anything about that.
Well, they have. It hasn't resulted. It hasn't created results. I'm going to let you go, James, because I'm coming up against the break. Your point's a good one. Listen, we've talked about this a lot this week. The guys who aren't producing, the positions are DH, shortstop, and first base. DH is a collection of your best hitters taking a half day off, and short is Bobby Witt Jr. and first is Vinny Pasquantino. They're going to hit. We're also, like, if this were an NFL season, we'd be approaching the end of the third quarter of the first game. Would you panic if you were down 6 points going into the fourth quarter right now of the first game? Would you be ready to junk the season? No. And we don't need to junk the Royal season here either. Gary Parrish talking college hoops next.
All right, among Royals who qualified for the batting title, who had the fewest RBI in a 300 season in a non-strike year? Brought to you by Twin Peaks.
Welcome back here in the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Petro, Collier, Seaboldt has the best seat in the house. We're going to talk to Gary Parrish, our college hoops insider, here in a second. We remind you, Kurtis, at Nick and Jake's, where you should be right now. Get over to Nick and Jake's. All kinds of great Masters fare, whether you want a great cocktail. They get all kinds of drink specials. They get all kinds of food specials, including all the Masters menu. So get over there and check it out. The Masters Club, pimento cheese, egg salad, ham and cheese, and giveaways too, Kurtis.
Yes, in fact, just to back sell that, I've already had a pimento cheese and an egg salad. So
there you go.
I guess ham and cheese is next. I'm going to hit the trifecta here at Nick and Jake's. You mentioned from now until the end of the show, actually through hole 15, they're giving away $15 gift card for food here at Nick and Jake's anytime someone has an eagle on 13 and 15. And we've barely been here an hour. We've now had our second eagle, Adam Scott, eagled on 13 to go from 1 over to 1 under. So it's off to a good start. People getting some discounts on some fantastic food here at Nick and Jake's and watching some great golf. And as you mentioned, everyone is in green, so that's it is a fun place to be. People got their Masters hats, and
it's the best.
It's unlike any spot in the city. Unlike, as you said, any spot other than Augusta, Georgia. Where else would you rather be than Nick and Jake's?
Yeah, and you can enter to win their big grand prize. Scan the QR code in the bar at any of the Nick and Jake's locations, or head to nickandjakes.com/masters. 1 entry per person. Going to draw the winner on Monday, April 13th. They've got 3 different Yingling Flight golf bags they're going to be giving away: a Tito's Yeti cooler, a Ben Holiday Bourbon LED sign, Nick and Jake's gift cards. You could be winning that as well. It's at Nick and Jake's. All right, we knew the story was breaking today. We are planning on getting Mayor Lucas. We didn't know when that would be. We still don't really know, but we think we're going to get him after the city council meeting. So we talked to Gary Parrish a little bit earlier. GP with us in TP. Yeah, a program. Yeah. That's pretty bad. That's dad joke-esque right there. That was awful. Anyway, Gary Parrish talked to him a little bit earlier today. Started out asking what we learned from this Final Four, from Michigan winning the whole tournament. What was his biggest takeaway?
Well, it's funny because with the chaotic state of recruiting and transfer waivers and prospects bouncing from one campus to the other, you constantly hear things like, this is not sustainable, or it's ruining college athletics. And then you look at the crowds and you look at the television ratings, and there's just nothing to back it up. Like, people keep saying the current model is unsustainable, and I know what they mean when they say that, but right now coaches are making more money than they've ever made, players are making more money than they've ever made, and television ratings are hitting historic highs. And so despite all of the unusual aspects of college athletics in this era of sports, the truth is everything seems to be doing pretty well. And on the court, the best basketball team in the country, one that had showed itself to be in that conversation from the jump of the season. They ended up winning 6 games in the bracket and cutting nets. The right team won the championship. That's not always true in college basketball because the nature of a single elimination tournament, trying to crown a champion from that. But in this particular year, yes, the best team won it all.
If you are a fan of the Gary Parrish segment, you know that Gary last week called Michigan over Connecticut. If you're a fan of the Eye on College Basketball podcast, we'll just set that aside. We'll say that Gary only said Michigan. He always had that. He didn't waver at any time. If you heard the podcast, you knew how much of a coin flip game Gary was talking about the Michigan-Arizona game being. But at least on this program, you called Michigan over Connecticut last week, so you nailed that. This Michigan team did some things statistically that was, as good as it gets, right? Like, they look like one of the dominant teams of all time. And I said, especially after the Arizona game, I don't think I said this before, but after the way they beat Arizona, I said, as long as they win, and maybe they didn't win convincingly against Connecticut, I said, we're going to look back on this Michigan team. The season is going to morph into like the 1990 UNLV Runnin' Rebels, which, like, at the time they had some challenges early on. They lost a game or two here or there, and maybe it was because of the follow-up season where they were undefeated going into the tournament that we, looked at that team and said, wow, that became part of the story of the 90 UNLV, that this was one of the most dominant teams ever. I feel like we're going to look back eventually, and maybe it will take another run next year, But it feels like to me, history, we're going to remember this season as Michigan's year, where Arizona, unfortunately, is going to fade. UConn was number one for a while this year. That's going to fade. And we're going to remember this as a dominant Michigan season. Do you think that's what history will remember?
I think that's right. And now we're going to probably need to get a little ways away from the championship game to view it that way, because the truth is they didn't play their best game in the last game. And recency bias, the most recent thing you've seen is the thing you remember most. But if you could just flip it and say, hey, Michigan, play your least impressive game of the tournament in the round of 32 and still win, and then play your most impressive games at the Final Four, you would have a different, not you, but people would have a different idea of that team right now. But the truth is they finished 37-3. They won the outright Big Ten title by multiple games. They finished with an offense that rated number 4 in the country at KenPom, a defense that rated number 1 in the country at KenPom. And then here's the key. They have a net rating at KenPom of plus 37.90, which without context I know means nothing to anybody. But the truth is that database at KenPom goes back to 1996-97, the year Arizona won its national championship, and no national champion in the history of the KenPom database. Not 2012 Kentucky, not 2008 Kansas, not 2015 Duke, you name it. No national champion has ever finished with a net rating better than the one Michigan just finished with at KenPom this season. So I know that when you look at a team and Elliot Cadeau is its starting point guard, given what he was at North Carolina, it's hard to wrap your head around the idea that maybe that actually was one of the best college basketball teams of all time, and certainly one of the best, if not the best, college basketball teams in the modern era. But the truth is there's a lot of data points to back that up. How often they beat ranked teams this season, how badly they beat ranked teams this season. They went through a stretch where they played 3 straight top 25 teams in the AP poll and beat them by at least 30 points each. That had never happened in the history of the AP poll. So Dusty May absolutely got into the transfer portal with millions of dollars, sure, but not the most millions, but with millions of dollars, and built an excellent, not perfect, but pretty close to that college basketball team. And yes, they will be remembered that way in due time.
Yeah, I think you mentioned them having the worst game. Like, that's one of the things we talked about going into that championship game on Monday was that, okay, I haven't seen Michigan have a bad game. You know, they'd scored 90 in every one. That, like, usually in 6 games you have a bad game. Like I mentioned, that UNLV team, they had like a – and I'll give credit to Rick Majerus, who was the coach of Ball State that year. Ball State dragged them down into a rock fight, and they won. Like, Kurtis thought it was 62-60. We didn't look it up. I'm sorry, I should have. But, it was a 1 or 2 basket game against Ball State. Along the way, I think in like the Sweet 16 for them, but they survived it. I said, usually in an NCAA tournament, you're going to have to survive a bad game. They played their bad game against a team that had been number 1 for a part of the year and still got it done. And it was in the championship game. And you're right, maybe that championship game will soften what we think of them because they weren't dominant in that final game, but they were dominant all year. You just went through all the numbers, and is there a blueprint that others will follow? 5 transfers, starting that had never happened before. That's a first time here. Is there something that will, that people could say, okay, this is now our plan. This is how Dusty May did it. This is how we'll do it. Does it mean even more transfers, for the top teams?
I don't think there's any one way to build a college basketball team in the year 2026. I understand the transfer portal is a point of emphasis, but there was a point in time where Duke was favored to win this thing, and Duke's best player was a freshman. Duke's going to have multiple players picked in the first round of the NBA draft, and that was in some ways a team led by somebody who just graduated high school less than a year ago. So there's a lot of different ways to build and roster build, but I do think the thing that was interesting about Michigan that became a point of emphasis and that other coaches and staffs will try to replicate is that they got big and emphasize positional size. And this is something I think that started in the NBA because everything starts in the NBA. Steph Curry comes along, Draymond Green plays center, the Warriors start playing small 5-out offense, and then that trickles throughout the NBA and down to college basketball where everybody's trying to play small. Well, there was an interesting quote from Todd Golden, the Florida coach, at some point in the middle of the season where he said what he and his staff had decided was that the best way to raise your floor as a high major basketball team, to ensure you're not getting knocked off by a St. Peter's or a Loyola Chicago or a team like that, is to, do what football teams do in the Big Ten and the SEC. Like, those games are won when Big Ten teams play, schools from different conferences, smaller conferences. When you see a power conference football team in the playoff play a James Madison, the difference is at the line of scrimmage, where you can just recruit bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic people. So Todd Golden's point was, why would we do that in college basketball as well? Like, if all I'm doing is matching you 6'2" guard for 6'2" guard, what kind of physical advantage do I actually have? But you cannot get a 7'2" center who can really run and jump and do things at the mid-major level. But I should be able to get them at the SEC level. So I'm going to try to have great positional size everywhere and then physically overwhelm you in a way that raises the floor and makes it less likely I'm going to get picked off by a team like that. And if you look at this Michigan team, this is what they were. 7'2", Adai Mara in the middle, Morez Johnson, 6'11", athlete, and then on the wing, 6'9", 240 pounds, Yaxel Lindenborg, big, strong, fast, aggressive. And so they just got to a point where even if you are big and you think you have advantages in the front court, you really didn't when you matched up with them. And they played fast. And so they were making it a high possession game, as many possessions as they could, while being physically overwhelming everywhere, but especially in the front court. And when Dusty May was asked about it, actually thought this was interesting. Dan Hurley was asked about it first, and he said, when they were putting together the roster, you do look at it and you start to wonder, how is that going to work together? Like, Adai Mara is not a shooter, neither is Morez Johnson. So now you've got two positions filled with non-shooters. How is that going to work in modern basketball? Well, Dusty May decided to look at it a different way. He looked at Oklahoma City and said they had Chet Holmgren. They were the best team in the world. They went out and got Isaiah Hartenstein. They doubled down on being big. Why don't we double down on being big? And it obviously worked. And I do think that's what you're going to see in college basketball going forward. Two things. A lot of teams recruiting Europe, specifically Eastern Europe, because of the success of Illinois. And then a lot of teams trying to get big, physical, athletic, and fast in the front court, because that's what Michigan used to just overwhelm teams in the NCAA tournament.
I'm so glad you said that, because that was one of my takeaways that I said would be copied, that the pendulum had swung too far, that we'd gone to, I got to have all guards, everybody's got to shoot. And I remember even having arguments with friends, like people telling me, well, Shaquille O'Neal couldn't play this year. I'm like, sure he could. He'd be great. Right. You'd play 4 out, and you'd have all the shit. That's what every team that had him when he was in his prime, the Magic, the Lakers, the Heat, they were always trying to find enough shooters. There wasn't the quantity of shooters to keep helping to stretch the floor. Now they're everywhere. There's, and you put him in the middle, and he goes one-on-one. You've got everything you want. And I think Michigan is bringing the pendulum back to, yes, we want shooting. We need to shoot. I mentioned when they played Arizona, they had 308 three-pointers coming into the game against Arizona. Arizona had 200. That's not to say that Arizona couldn't win that game. They could, but I think as we look back, they weren't 1 and 1A. They were 1 and 2. Michigan was definitively the best team. And, I think having that size and being able to pound the ball in is the takeaway from Michigan. But they also shoot it. Like, I think it can't be like, we just want to be big, we don't need to shoot threes. They shot threes. That needs to be understood if you're going to try to recreate what they did. Is Dusty May, is roster construction, is getting the chemistry of the team, is it like, certainly there's a lot of data to it and a lot of vision from the coach, but some of it's just luck, or does the fact that he's been to 2 Final Fours in 4 years, one of them at a low-level school, at Florida Atlantic, and now his formula works at Michigan, does that say that this guy gets building a roster better than anybody else? And look out, because Michigan's going to win more of these things.
He's got to be up there pretty high on the list of everything you just described, for what it's worth, and perhaps nothing. But as we were sitting outside Lucas Oil Stadium on set late Monday after the game, a clearly intoxicated Michigan fan, but clearly a Michigan fan, was just sort of circling our set and yelling things like, Michigan is the new Duke, Dusty May is the new Coach K. And we chuckled, but I can understand where that's coming from, because you now have what is clearly a special and unique coaching talent, working at one of the biggest brands in college athletics. Perhaps we don't think of Michigan like that in college basketball, but just trust me when I tell you, when it comes to alums, brand recognition from coast to coast, all that type of stuff, Michigan is up there really, really, really high. And so some of it is luck, sure, and I think even Dusty would tell you that. When you are recruiting people largely off of Zoom and Synergy, you are kind of hoping a little bit that when you get everybody on campus, nobody's a jerk, everybody gets along. Even Brad Underwood mentioned this when he was asked at the Final Four, how did you know bringing in high school players from Kansas to mesh with transfer portal guys from other schools, to mesh with Eastern Europeans who in some cases are still learning, English? How did you know, Brad Underwood, that they would get along so well? And he said, I didn't. You hope, you do your best, but you don't really know. He even said, Brad Underwood, the first time he was in a room with Keaton Wagler, he had already signed him, had already committed to paying him whatever it is Illinois paid him to go to Illinois. He never had been in a room with him before he was already, contractually tied to this young man. And so it's a little bit of guesswork. It's a little bit of luck. It can blow up on you. But I think when you look at Dusty May, they were very intentional at Michigan. Yaxel Lindenborg was signed and sealed and ready to go at Michigan before last season's national championship game was even played. So they knew what they were doing. They knew where to go when the portal opened. They had a map built long before the portal opened, and then they executed it perfectly. It doesn't mean they'll hit like that every time, but they knew what they were doing this time, and they hit it brilliantly.
We talked about Arizona and their roster construction, that they have 4 freshmen. Kurtis Seaboldt put together a breakdown of how all the teams were built, and there are certainly freshmen. You mentioned Keaton Wagler was a big part of the equation for them. Arizona had 4. Michigan was the one that had the fewest freshmen that they were relying on. They only had 1 in Trey McKinney. Do we get even more? You've been telling us for several years that the high major coaches have said, look, I'm recruiting top 50 guys, and that's it, because I don't have time to develop. I can find a finished product, junior, senior somewhere, that'll make our team better right now, as opposed to trying to develop the number 125 or number 95 recruit in the country. Did that become even more pronounced with Michigan only having 1 freshman in their lineup?
Perhaps, but then you look and Illinois was also in the Final Four, and their best player was ranked 150th in his high school class last season. So, I just think that even I, if you'll let me cop to it, have fallen into a trap over the past couple of years of thinking this is the way to do it. And I have gone from recruiting high school players to roster continuity and then filling holes in the transfer portal. But the truth is, you could look at every Final Four team this year, and they were built somewhat differently. UConn had a lot of roster continuity from one year to the other, but then they also got into the transfer portal, and then the young man who hit the shot that allowed him to go to the Final Four, he was a high school prospect. At Illinois, they recruited heavily in Eastern Europe, but also there's a transfer portal guy, a big part of that program, and a high school prospect, big part of that program. I don't think there's any one way to do it. But I do think if I were trying to come up with the best blueprint right now, I would say that some combination of these things is the way to put yourself in a position to try to win a national championship in this era of the sport. First off, you need to have a good team, a good program, and then bring players back from that good team within that good program. I do believe roster continuity from one year to the next is important, if for no other reason, just to set the culture. You have people in your program who understand what the staff wants and expects. So you tell me you can have 2 or 3 at the very least good players, impactful players from one good team to the next year over year. I want that. And then I want to fill, I want to supplement my roster with transfer portal guys. Like if I need a point guard, let's go find a 21-year-old point guard who's already proven at this level. If I need a big, let's go find a 22-year-old big who's already proven at this level or has been a statistical monster at a lower level. And then, yes, I still would like a 5-star or 2 high school prospect who projects as a one-and-done, if not lottery pick, first-round pick. Houston had a lot of that stuff this season, and that's why a lot of people pick Houston to win the national championship. So I think that's the most likely combination of things: roster continuity, transfer portal supplement, and yes, one-and-done NBA draft picks. But you can do it a lot of different ways, and I think this Final Four and really this season sort of illustrated that.
A couple more things about the tournament. That is, number one, I felt like, I hate UConn. I don't talk about it a lot with you, but, and people who listen to my show know it. Like, anyone but UConn is what I'm rooting for. And that has to do with being at Syracuse and frankly, jealousy. I'll be honest and blunt that they blew in the time that I went to Syracuse. I thought they were a substandard program to mine, and now they're one of the blue bloods and have left my program in the dust. I'll admit it. I'm jealous. It drives me crazy. Dan Hurley also drives me crazy, even though I have a buddy who coached with him at St. Anthony's, who raves about him as a guy. I know he's, all this kind of thing, but he's really a good guy when you get to know him and all this, and vouches for him. And I have to tell my buddy Rob, I'm like, I don't want to hear that. Stop. I just want to not enjoy the guy. Leave me alone, right? Let me do that. So I freely admit that there is a positive side to everything, and I'm clearly influenced by my past when I say this. But I am also honest, and I can tell you that I think that for me, Dan Hurley maybe did more. I mean, we already knew he was a brilliant coach and a great coach. But in defeat, I think he maybe did even more. Like, he said it, like, we got to play a certain kind of game to do this, and then he did it. I mean, he damn near dragged Michigan into the rock fight that, you could see the path to victory for Connecticut. I know a bank three is what got the cover, so there was a little bit of flukiness, but, man, he did make Michigan play their worst game. I mean, I think even more of Dan Hurley today after losing this finals than I did going into it.
That makes sense to me. He never said this out loud or directly, but this is what he believed. You can tell by the way he hinted at it and the way that UConn played in that game. He knew he had the inferior team. He knew that if they play well and we play well, we can't win. They have to play poorly. We have to make them play poorly. We have to drag them into the mud. We have to slow this down. He even said it to Tracy Wolfson, kind of with a smile in the middle of the game in one of those in-game hints. He was like, we are dragging them into a game, the only type of game we can win. And that is because Dan had a very good team this year, but it was never the best team in the country. I think because his staff is so good and you think of them as being like this brilliant offensive team, that it was just sort of easy/lazy for people to talk about them that way throughout this season. Like, well, UConn with that offense, the offense was like ranked around 30th in the country. It was a good offense, but nowhere close to elite and nowhere close to what it was when they won back-to-back titles. One of those national championship teams under Dan Hurley had the number one ranked offense in the country. The other one had the third ranked offense in the country. Again, this one was somewhere, between 25 and 30, I believe. It had sort of hovered there most of the season. So he had a team that was good, but it didn't win the Big East. It didn't win the Big East tournament. It wasn't a one seed. And I really do believe that if they were able to pull this off on Monday night, and they had a shot, that it would have been the most impressive of Dan's 3 national championships. As it is, it's a national runner-up to go with his 2 national titles. He's on his way to the Hall of Fame, clearly. And I agree with you. That was an impressive coaching job by Dan and his staff. I know he's not for everybody. Sometimes he's not for me. But, I can take that, set it aside, and look at him honestly and say this. He is excellent at his job. I don't know that I would, like the way he coaches on a day-to-day basis or conducts himself on the sideline on a minute-to-minute basis. But I can set that aside and recognize that this is somebody who's better at his job than 99.9% of humans are at their jobs, and I can tip my hat to him in that way.
We're talking to Gary Parrish here in the program. A couple other notes we want to hit here real quick. Let's talk first of all about the quantity of players in the portal, and we'll even kind of just zero in on the Jayhawks. I mean, they have just about everybody but like Cole Rosario that is in the portal. Is that just it now? Like, and how important is it to? You just mentioned a little bit about having some continuity there. Is that all out the window for most teams now that Michigan's one with 5 transfers in the starting lineup? Like, what's the path for Kansas here moving forward with the way they get Bill Self back and none of their players, or almost none of them?
I would prefer to have roster continuity. I'm not going to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but the idea that it's, quote, necessary to success is just not true. Kentucky was pretty good 2 years ago with no roster continuity and a brand new coach. And so I wouldn't be alarmed if I were a KU fan. there's a lot of people who think you're going to enroll the number one prospect in the class of 2026, for better or worse. You've got a commitment already from a five-star point guard. So you're going to be super talented. Again, it'll have to, mesh together. But that's not unlike what, any number of coaches and programs are going to have to do. It's not ideal. Like if I were a Kansas fan, I would like to keep Flory in the program. I would have probably liked to keep another one of these, I would have liked to had 2 or 3 or 4 impactful players from one season carry over to the next. It now looks like that's not going to be the case, but it does not ensure that next season won't be whatever it is you can dream of it being. At the very least, you're going to have presumably two 5-star freshmen in your starting lineup. And if you can get in the transfer portal and supplement that, then you'll look up and Kansas should have one of the more talented rosters, or at least starting lineups in the country. Whether that translates into an awesome team, we'll see. But the talent will still be in place, and Allen Fieldhouse will still be an advantage. I think we've only got like maybe one top 10 on some of the mock drafts, freshmen. I think the first 10 and one of the mock drafts we looked at are all freshmen. But I think only one of them, and maybe none of them, made the Final Four as I'm looking back. I mean, it's not to say you don't want the best player. I think that to me is more a statement like, did you put too much money into one guy and would you be better? We've talked about it. 1 $3 million guy or 3 $1 million guys, which is better? I think 3 $1 million guys is better. Is that something that, will be a lasting effect from this Final Four? Well, it's just that what $1 million guys used to be aren't the same as what $1 million guys are now. Like, I was at the Final Four, bumped into a mid-major coach that I know. And, I mean, this is the most mid-major league of mid-major leagues. I don't want to get too specific, but nobody would argue with me labeling this a mid-major program in a mid-major league. And they got a recommitment from their best player. You wouldn't even know his name if I said it to you. And I don't mean that as an indictment on you. I just mean that nobody would know his name if I said it to you. And I said, oh, hey, just one of those things you bump into him at the Final Four. Oh, man, how you doing? Good to see you. Nice season. Oh, hey, I heard you got your player back. Yeah. What does that cost? Just between us, what does that cost? And he was like, more than $1 million. What? Wow. More than $1 million. More than $1 million for this mid-major player you've never heard of. That's what they paid to get him back. So when you say things like, would you rather have $3 million players? Like $1 million player right now is probably coming off of Kansas's bench next season. That's where we're at. The money has multiplied dramatically very quickly. And so I can remember just 3 years ago, you could build a quality college basketball roster with like $5 million. Like that was like you could reasonably think you're building a top 25 team with $5 million. Now that's got to be closer to 12 probably. And so you're going to have to get in the transfer portal and spend money. And I get your point. Like you don't want to spend it all in one place, but an AJ DeBonsa type guy is now costing you like $6-7 million. And his sidekicks are costing you 2 to 3. Everything has gotten way more expensive, and if you're not ready to spend that kind of money, you're going to have a hard time putting together a roster that's going to look like the Michigan roster or the Duke roster or the other rosters around the country. This has gone from a $5 million a team game to a $20 million a team game, or at least something around that number. Yeah, because the $5 million number was floated around on Flory Badunga, and I asked some people, and they're like, yeah, that's high. I would think it's about half that. That's people in the mix, people that are around the dollars, that know it, that I talk to, and they're like, yeah, I think that's high. And so my thinking was, when we're seeing all these numbers, because I saw, big men are $5 million, point guards are 3 to 4, wings are 2.5 to 3 million. Somebody tweeted that out, and I saw that, and I thought, okay, well, those are the asking prices now. But spots start getting filled, and it's like, well, I had these 3 schools, for my big guy, the agents, with 2 of them just filled, I've got to take this last best offer over here, that the number would come down. But you think it is going to be, like, those kind of numbers that I just read off are going to be more accurate than not. Yeah, I see all those graphics. I know the graphic you're referencing. I saw the same thing. I don't think anybody, I say this respectfully of whoever's putting those numbers out, I don't think anybody has a great idea of, like, quote, what a wing costs. Like, who's the wing? Like, is the wing AJ DeBonsa? Because, like, that costs a lot different than your average wing. So I don't know that those numbers are an accurate reflection. And I don't know that Flory Badunga is going to get $5 million. Can he get 3? Yeah, I could see him getting 3, no problem. And the other thing that happens here is, yes, there are asking prices, and then there are offers, and this is the way negotiations work with basketball players or cars or anything else. But eventually, what is also going to happen is there will be a deadline for players to withdraw from the draft, that enter the draft, and there will be programs holding back money for those players. So let's say that there's a player at any SEC school or Big 12 school, and he's entering the NBA draft, but is leaving open the possibility of coming back to school, specifically the school he's already been at. So a staff might be holding back $2.5 million, $3 million to give to this player when he withdraws from the draft. Well, then he kills it at the combine, has 3 great individual workouts, he remains in the draft. Well, now you're holding $2.5 million that you were planning to give to that young man. You got it. The boosters have already given it to you. You might as well spend it now. It's almost like a gift card, and it expires soon. So now that's where, if you are still in the transfer portal and available, after the deadline for players to withdraw from the draft, that's where all this money that staff have been saving for players might just be freed up to spend on whoever else is out there. So if you can hold out that long, then it becomes a supply-demand thing, and suddenly the money that's available outweighs the players that are available, and that's when you can get overpaid. That happened this past year. It'll happen again this season as well.
We're talking to Gary Parrish, our college basketball insider. Time for our Final Four. I will start you with this. How many titles for Dusty May when it's all said and done?
He's got one now. I would put him at, he's only 49 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could reasonably assume he's got another 20 years to coach. And at a place like Michigan, he's always going to have the resources. So I'll go more than one. I think you get a little tricky trying to do more than that. Like Bill Self only has 2. Jim Boeheim never got more than 1. Anything more than 2 puts you in a special category. But I do think Dusty finishes with more than 1.
Okay. I'll put down 2+ there for it. Does Michael Malone succeed at North Carolina?
I think so, yes. I mean, this is not something I would have done 10 years ago, but in this era of the sport, recruiting is transactional. Like, if North Carolina can do nothing but keep the players already on its roster, that's a preseason top 25 team. And then you've got a guy who has a reputation as a great X's and O's, a great on the whiteboard type of coach. And I'll keep this simple. At any power conference program in America, with few exceptions, but especially at the Blue Bloods, if you have the resources to buy a team, a general manager who knows what they're doing, and a competent basketball coach, that's the ingredients you need to be successful. I can't speak to whether UNC's general manager will do his job well. That's up to him. But the resources should be there. Michael Malone is a great coach. If the general manager gives him the right players and team to work with, this should be just fine.
Does Bill Self make another Final Four?
I'll say yes, just because I wouldn't want to rule it out, because he's obviously a Hall of Famer and is going to, until he retires, I think, put teams together, assemble teams that are good enough theoretically to do it. But the question there becomes, like, how long does he have left to do this? I mentioned when we were talking about Dusty May and national titles, he's only 49 years old. You can reasonably assume he's got at least another 20 years to coach. How many more years is Bill Self going to coach? Is it 1? Well, then I'd probably say no, because you would just bet against Kansas being one of 4 teams next season. Is it 3 years? Well, then, maybe that leaves open the possibility. So I'll say yes, but the clock is ticking, and I can understand why somebody else might argue the other side.
I looked it up last year. I asked you who will win the national championship next year. It becomes more and more difficult. In fact, not even difficult. It's just stupid to even try to project it with the way things are. But I'm going to ask it anyway. Last year you said Houston. You certainly gave it a good run. The Cougars, I think, maybe could have made a run at it. They didn't get there. Who are you going to say for this year? Who wins the 27 tournament?
So the top 25 and 1 has been updated, and I've got Michigan at number 1. And, I think this will circle back appropriately to some of the things we've talked about. They're going to have roster continuity. Elliot Cadeau is going to be back. LJ Kaysen is going to be back. Morris Johnson should be back. They're going to bring back several impactful players from a national championship team who will remain in the program. Then they're going to get in the transfer portal because they might be the best at that. And they also have at least one 5-star high school prospect committed and ready to go. So when you look at that Michigan roster heading into next season, they're going to have a Hall of Fame level coach, just like they did this season. They're going to have roster continuity 1 year to the next. That's important. They're going to supplement with the transfer portal. They do it better than anybody else. And they're going to have one and done projected first-round draft picks on the roster as well. That checks every box. They should be the favorite at this moment. But as always, we'll see what it looks like in November.
Gary, you're the absolute best. We always love our conversations talking college hoop. We'll probably bother you a couple of times during the off season, but can't wait to get started next year with the college basketball season. Thanks so much for all the great work and all the great conversations this year.
You know my number. Anytime you need me, I'm here, buddy. Thanks.
Due to circumstances beyond our control, we now present
The Program with Soren Petro. Weekdays from 2 to 6 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Listen, there's only one expert when it comes to framing your sports memorabilia, and that's Art and Frame Warehouse, Kansas City's best for more than 25 years. Michael and his staff are absolute artists. Listen, when you take in a framed jersey, I don't know, maybe it's your local star quarterback, maybe you got something, I don't know, maybe you got a Wilt Chamberlain. That's one of the holy grails of sports memorabilia. When you have that collection, you take it to somebody. Number one, you want it displayed beautifully, perfectly. You also want it taken care of. Unfortunately, that's not the case with all framing places out there. It is the case with Art and Frame. Do you know some places will actually pin it down? That basically is putting a hole in the jersey, in the item. It's devaluing it. It's ruining it, really, is what it's doing. Why would you trust something that you really love to anybody but Art and Frame Warehouse? Every single jersey that I have that's been framed, I had framed at Art and Frame Warehouse. All my photos, all my newspapers, everything, all my sports memorabilia. There's only one place I've taken it for more than 20 years. It's to Art and Frame Warehouse. You can find them online at framekc.com. That's framekc.com. They're absolute pros when it comes to jersey framing and any sports memorabilia. Bats, balls, boxing gloves, trunks, Olympic torches, medals. They've done it all. They'll display it beautifully. They'll display it perfectly. It's what they do. They're at 92nd and Metcalf. You can stop in, see them in person. Tell them you heard it right here on 810. You can get extra discounts on memorabilia and custom shadow boxes when you tell them you heard about it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Look them up online at framekc.com. You get gallery quality at warehouse prices. That's right. They can buy in bulk, just like those big box stores. They just don't need 200,000 square feet of showroom to do it. They keep the prices down, but you get the absolute best quality around. It's where all the best collections go. Everyone who has big collections goes to Art and Frame Warehouse. So what are you waiting for? Go to framekc.com or see them in person at 92nd and Metcalf.
It's Todd Lebo here for FanDuel. Special week going on in golf right now, and FanDuel has your back with a Mulligan Bet Back token this week on the course. Now, once the tournament starts, you can turn any losing bet into a bonus bet for another try. You've got protection to take that sleeper pick or make a bold prediction. You can do this however you want. Backing someone to win it all, just go for it. You want someone just in the top 5, lock it down with confidence. If it doesn't hit, you've got that mulligan in your back pocket, ready to go. We'd all like to have lots of mulligans on the golf course. Well, FanDuel is giving it to you this week. Go to FanDuel.com/local to claim your special Mulligan Bet Back token and make those bets and make some money with golf this weekend.
21 plus and present in Missouri.
All right, welcome back
to
to
the hour.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Answer. Sorry, my bad. Among Royals who qualified for the batting title, who had the fewest RBI in a 300 season in a non-strike year, by the way?
Fewest
300
RBI
season.
Fewest, I don't know, Wade Boggs or Tony Gwynn or
just for the Royals.
Oh, just for the Royals. Jose Offerman.
40. No, he was would have been a teammate, I think, probably at some point, possibly.
Ooh.
He was only here for a year.
Only here for a year, and he had 40.
40 ribs, hit 309.
Wow, I don't know.
Fine. Hal Morris.
Oh, God, yes.
61
Light hitting
today.
Hal Morris, of course. Moving around in the box with his feet and everything.
Yep. The lowest regardless of batting average, the lowest for a player who qualified for the batting title for the Royals is 28 by Tom Goodwin in 1995.
Wow, that's impressive. Nick and Jake's is impressive. The place to be. You can tell Kurtis is in the hot spot in town. All the Nick and Jake's have you covered. They're giving away $15 gift cards you can use towards your food if you are there when somebody hits an eagle at 13 or 15. How many we had so far?
So far, 2, Nikolai Hoygar and Adam Scott, both eagled 13.
And we got a number of the leaders making their way towards 13. I'm looking at Scheffler's at 10, Rose is at 12, Spieth is at 12. So some of the leaders are going to get a chance to take a run at that. Right now, the leaderboard, who's up top?
Right now, Sam Burns and Rory McIlroy are at the top at 5 under. They're both in the clubhouse. There are 5 players, 2 back at 3 under, including Jason Day, Patrick Reed, Justin Rose, and Scotty Scheffler. Day and Reed are done. Rose through 12, Scheffler, as you said, through 10. Just a note, he must have just bogeyed a hole. Gary Woodland was at 3 under. Apparently he bogeyed 10, so he's fallen back in the group at 2 under, 3 strokes off the lead. He is again through 10,
but still in range. The local guy, still in range there. Nick and Jake's the spot to be. All 3 locations. They've got all your Masters fare, great drink specials as well. Go to nickandjakes.com to find the one closest to you. And don't forget Nick and Jake's, great KC company, always giving back to the community. Tuesday, April 14th at the Rose Hill Winery. They got their is it Mahjong? Mahjong? Can't remember how they pronounce that. They got a big Mahjong. Mahjong? My wife just learned how to play it. It's like a big deal, but I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
no idea.
Got a big tournament coming up April 14th. Their Cinco de Mayo event on May 5th at the Rose Hill Winery. Pickleball and cornhole tournament coming up Wednesday, June 3rd at Chicken and Pickle. Jen Timmons is going to be competing in the Dine and Dance with the Stars on June 6th. You can vote on that right now. All the info is on their great website for their charity, For the Kids, KC.org. That's 4 as in 4, F-O-R-E, For the Kids, KC.org, supporting mental health initiatives for youth in the Kansas City area. We'll take a break, get back on track next year in the program. All right, welcome back here to the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We got the Masters going on at Nick and Jake's. Kurtis is there at the 135th and Metcalf location. Go to nickandjakes.com. You can even enter to win their big prize package. They're going to be giving one away at each one of the Nick and Jake's. Scan the QR code in the bar or go to nickandjakes.com/masters. One entry per person. Winner is going to be drawn on Monday. Yingling Flight golf bag, Tito's Yeti cooler, Ben Holiday Bourbon LED sign, Nick and Jake's gift cards, all those things you can win. And you don't even have to be there. Like I said, let's go to their website, nickandjakes.com/masters, and you can enter Rory McIlroy in the clubhouse along with Burns. I didn't get Burns' first name. I don't even, anyone, what did Kurtis say? What was the guy's first name?
It's,
Montgomery?
Sam Burns.
George? Montgomery Burns? No? Sam Burns are your leaders. They're at 5 under. They're in the clubhouse. Scotty Scheffler, one of a number of golfers still on the course chasing. Scheffler's at 3 under through 10. So we'll see if we get some fireworks coming around. We'll see if we get some of those Eagles. $15 gift card for food at Nick and Jake's if there's an Eagle on 13 or 15.
All right, on this date in 1974, this MLB owner apologized for the poor play of his team on the public address system. Who is he? Brought to you by La Feta Delicatessen.
You're in the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Scotty Scheffler has just bogeyed on 11. That drops him down to 2 under. He's in a tie for 7th now. McIlroy and Burns 5 under. Reed, Day, Rose, Kitayama at 3 under. Those are your leaders right now in the Masters, the place to be. Nick and Jake's. Kurtis Seaboldt is at 135th, and Metcalf, Nick and Jake's. Great spot as they are giving away $15 gift cards you can use towards your food at Nick and Jake's anytime there's an eagle on 13 or 15. They've already given a number of them away, and we've got a number of the leaders headed into 13 and 15, so still a chance. Get over there, get to Nick and Jake's, watch the Masters, and enjoy. We also have been talking throughout the course of the day, really been talking all week about the fact that this was coming. It's now been officially put on the docket. It'll go to the Finance Committee, I think, on Tuesday. Mayor Lucas has put forth a proposal to provide $600 million for the Kansas City Royals to build their stadium at Kansas City, in downtown Kansas City at Washington Square Park / Crown Center. Stephen St. John has been down covering the festivities with the mayor and with the city council meeting. He joins us here in the program. Stephen, how are you, my friend? What's going on, buddy?
Eventful afternoon down here at City Hall. I actually just walked out. The meeting, city council meeting just ended, and then Mayor Quentin Lucas had a brief media scrum where, again, he answered a series of questions, but that all just wrapped up after starting at around 2 o'clock. So a lot going on at City Hall, and it sounds like some very good news for anyone that's been hoping that the Royals stay in Kansas City, Missouri, and end up at Washington Square Park.
Yeah, and it looks like the economic engine is there, and part of the proposal has a total cost of $1.9 billion. I don't think he pulled that out of thin air. I'm assuming that was after conversations with the Royals, but I thought it was interesting. The Royals put out a release basically saying, this is great. We look forward to having more substantive, that's a word I struggle with, more definitive talks, let me put it that way. The Kansas City Royals appreciate the work of our city's leadership, the mayor, city manager, and city council as they take important steps towards continued economic development for our city. We are grateful for their engagement in this process, as well as the critical work of the state of Missouri, and look forward to more detailed conversations as we consider solutions that are best for our team, our fans, and our community. Not exactly can't wait to get there.
Yeah, I think they're trying to slow the roll and not make it seem like this is close to being a done deal. And so, like there's, you mentioned and Mayor Lucas mentioned there's still a couple of hurdles to clear, but he was extremely confident that this was going to happen. And I think the other thing that, really stood out was the fact that, the target is opening day 2030 and not 2031. So, not only are they looking to get this thing done quickly, but that indeed is going to be the date that's met. They need to get on the ball in a hurry.
Yeah, and and Stephen, we played earlier the press conference that you sent over that you were at asking questions that he went into, that Mayor Lucas did a few minutes with some questions with some reporters down there, yourself and a couple others about what the plan was, and you mentioned it. He talked about getting this thing done and shovels in the ground in first quarter of 27. I want to be clear. The fastest turnaround that we've seen a stadium built is 39 months. And so if they stuck shovels in the ground on January 1, 39 months would put them, done on March 31st of 27. That is taking the fastest anyone's ever done it and saying we're going to duplicate that if they get ready to go on January 1.
So that tells me that they're very confident that this is going to happen and they have a plan.
Yeah.
And they're going to attack it. They have to, like you said, Tuesday. They've got to clear that with Kansas City's Board of Parks and Recreation commissioners to be able to that requires that vote to be passed. But, after that, Mayor Lucas, according to his comments that he had after the meeting, because he met with us again, he feels very confident. He said, it's the bottom of the ninth, the bases are loaded. And when I asked him, what's your message to Kansas City Missourians that still might be nervous that something could happen or there could be some type of roadblock here, he said, never want to say never, but he feels like it's almost home, and he anticipates that very soon people will be celebrating in downtown Kansas City, Missouri, the people that want the Royals to stay.
Yeah, I think we've, it's been pointing to this for several months now. I thought his comments, I'm curious if you agreed, the opening day comments he made it pretty clear that, certainly Kansas was kind of like, oh, yeah, a couple things in Kansas. And then he said, we appreciate what they've done in the Northland, but he really, we came away saying, he's flat out saying Kansas City, Missouri, and we know right now the only site that's being legitimately talked about is this Washington Square site. It felt to me 2 weeks ago on opening day that John Sherman was pretty much saying this is where it's going. Did it feel that way to you?
Absolutely. And there will be some comments that I think Bethany is sending over, as Bethany was there covering the city council meeting with me, that he had when I asked, what his message would be to, the people in Missouri and the people in Kansas City that are hoping not to lose the Royals. And he said, look, the emotions and the feelings that he had sitting in his office when it became finalized that the Chiefs were moving to Kansas, he said, sitting in his office today and looking over all the paperwork, he had that exact opposite feeling, a celebratory feeling. And so, and you'll hear it when you get a chance to play a little bit later. It all but sounded like he was taking a victory lap here. Now, he did have some caveats, like anything can happen. He tried to put that out there, but it sure sounds like, and you've talked about it for a couple of weeks. I talked about it the last couple of days, that all signs are pointing to the Royals staying in Missouri, being in Washington Square Park, and that all of the comments and everything that happened today point exactly in that direction.
I think one of the other things that is the silence is deafening is we hear nothing from Kansas. We hear nothing from any other location in Missouri. I mean, that is all, like, everybody on that front, there's clearly no one going, well, wait a minute. We got a proposal, and you and I have both had, we have people that will contact us when it's like, oh, here's some news on that, and you'll hear somebody from a different location, different site, different state will be like, well, not so fast, because here's what's going on. We're not hearing any of that now. There's no dissenting opinion coming from any of the other folks, unless I'm wrong. Maybe you've heard something different, but I'm not hearing any dissenting opinion coming from anywhere else, which makes it pretty clear that, if the Royals are going to hold this at bay, they don't have anything else on the board either.
No, I had someone tell me that knows what they're talking about last night. This Washington Square Park is the only location they're looking at, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing as well, and they zeroed in on this. Like when Kansas, when the old Sprint campus site went by the wayside, that really, I think that pointed them back into Kansas City, Missouri, which I think we all agree that's where John Sherman and I think at least a number of the other minority owners always really wanted this, that, if they weren't going to be able to control, a huge plot of land in Kansas, when it became clear that Kansas was not embracing that plan, then they said, okay, back to where we wanted to be all along, and that's staying in Kansas City, Missouri.
No, absolutely. And it looks like that's going to happen for the people that were, I grew up in the Northeast neighborhood, very close to downtown. A lot of the friends that I grew up with were very upset that the Chiefs, leaving Missouri and going to Kansas, and they felt like it was very, very important that Kansas City, Missouri kept the Royals. And I know my phone's blowing up. A lot of people are very, very happy today. And like I said, like the mayor said, it looks like every sign's pointing to this getting done very quickly. And I think we'll have some finality, by the end of this month. We'll have everything done, signed, sealed, delivered, and then we'll be talking about when they're going to start, when they're going to break ground, and if they can truly meet that target of opening day 2030.
Yeah, no, I agree, and so they do have to move quick, and I don't think I'm with you. I think they're not putting this out there when the timeline's that condensed because they don't think that they're close. I think they're really close, and maybe the Royals are just like, hey, we've been burnt saying some things in the past. We're not doing anything until it's completely buttoned up, all tied up, and maybe that's just the last thing that they're waiting for, and they just don't want anything to come back and haunt them in this situation. But it does seem like this is the spot. It's where they're going, and, I'm interested to see, are they going to take over or tear down Crown Center? Because I've heard Crown Center is part of the equation there, whether it's like I said, whether they're just going to absorb it and build around it, or if it's going to be taken down. I mean, now I think we're all eager to have the plans, and that's one of the things. There is a specific deadline for those designs. It's not stated in Mayor Lucas's proposal, but it says that a specific deadline for stadium and team office design, specifications, and site layout. Okay, I want to know what that date is, and hopefully we're going to talk to Mayor Lucas here pretty soon. I don't know that they'll have that date, but, if you're wanting to get a shovel in the ground in January of 27, that date's got to be pretty soon, because there's a lot of other things that have to happen before you do put a shovel in the ground. You need to know what it is. So I'm assuming that date will be pretty quick.
No, absolutely. I think we'll all, like I said, by the end of the month, maybe in a couple of weeks, I think we'll have some finality, and then we can finally start talking about what the actual plans are going to look like. We'll know the site, and then we'll start to be able to dream about what this downtown baseball stadium is actually going to be when it comes to fruition.
Yeah, Stephen St. John down covering things. He's been at the city council meeting, been talking to the mayor before and afterwards. Of course, the host of New Day with SSJ. He'll have a lot more on this tomorrow morning. Hopefully, we'll be bringing you the mayor here shortly. Stephen, thanks for the time, buddy. Thanks for all the great work. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Soren. I appreciate you.
All right, there goes Stephen St. John. Great job today from Stephen. One, hitting the airwaves, and then hitting the city council meeting. Boots on the ground, always appreciated. We are hoping to talk to Mayor Lucas sometime in the very near future. We're going to go ahead and take a break so we can be ready to go when he is ready. We'll do that hopefully next. Go by Nick and Jake's, have a drink for me, right? Good times happening with the Masters at Nick and Jake's, all three locations. You can even enter to win right now at nickandjakes.com/masters. Well, it was nice of Ted to do the math there for us. 6 over. When the other guy's 5 under, that's 11 off the lead. Nick and Jake's the spot to watch the Masters. They're giving away a $15 gift card for your food purchases anytime. Anybody, Eagles on hole 13 or 15. We got the leaders, some of the leaders coming through that spot. So you could be picking up a $15 gift card. No better place to watch the Masters than Nick and Jake's. And we had big news today. We heard the mayor, Stephen St. John, was down reporting on the mayor's comments. We played them for you from before they had the city council meeting. That's over. We just heard from Stephen again. Now we hear from the mayor himself. Mayor Quentin Lucas joins us here in the program. Mayor, how are you, sir?
You know what? It's a great day in Kansas City, great day for our region, so I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I'm sure you are, and I don't want to say congratulations because I know it's not done yet. We talked with Stephen, and he mentioned, you said, look, it's not done, but it certainly looks like a lot of the heavy lifting is done, and the financing mechanism is in place with upwards of $600 million coming from Kansas City, Missouri. Is there anything left for you to do besides the meeting on Tuesday with the Commerce Committee?
I think what we're going to do is certainly make sure that, we have a successful passing vote. Of course, a majority of the city council has already signed on to the agreement, so that tells you the likelihood is strong that we do pass. I've talked to the governor of Missouri, Mike Kehoe. He's been active and supportive in this. You will probably hear in the days, if not weeks ahead, in terms of what that Missouri commitment is. And then, you never say never. I gave this bottom of the ninth bases loaded type thing, and it's in our favor, so, our win percentage is high. That being said, we just make sure you don't screw anything up. So we're going to share this with the public. I know there are a lot of questions. Fortunately, at least, this is an issue that has been around a long time. People have been talking about Washington Square Park for a long time, and so hopefully that lets people know that we have a responsible financial deal in a good place with a team that I think has been great to work with that can help deliver this.
How far down the road is this with the Royals? The Royals put out a statement that I would call, pleasant, but not like, boy, we're done. Like how much work needs to be done between the city, the state, and the Royals?
Look, we've been talking a lot. I think those conversations will continue, and probably the biggest part and activity for all of us is to make sure that we get all of the different kind of finite details done. You're seeing from the Chiefs deal right now, and I know you guys report on it, that there are a lot of steps, and even though they had a big announcement, they still needed definitive votes in the Kansas legislature. You needed city councils to do things. I think we will be able to have fewer of those steps, but those steps are still important. In terms of when we can pop some champagne, I think if you see this pass next week, then that gets you in a much closer position. I expect, the state of Missouri we already talked to, so it looks like their funding from the Show Me Sports Investment Act will be available with things. And then, for us, it's off to the races for a stadium I want us to break ground on by first quarter 2027.
Yeah, which would have you, and you said opening day of 30, which would be the shortest stadium's ever been built is 39 months in Atlanta, correct? I mean, that would put you right on either breaking that record or right at it if you got a shovel in the ground on January 1.
That's exactly right, and I think, one thing that is additive to it is you have nobody on the site right now. You will have demolition of one office building, but otherwise you got a surface parking lot and an underutilized park. And so, we've done a lot of the work, a lot of the studies already, obviously, and, we're looking forward to getting moving on this.
Let's go through a couple of the details. We're talking to Mayor Lucas here in the program. In the Washington Square Park / Crown Center area, I've heard some rumblings that Crown Center will be a part of this, that would be a part of the land acquisition of the Royals. Can you shed any light on that?
I think I would leave that to the Royals, other than to note, I think everybody who has been nearby, Crown Center, Union Station, the businesses to the north, including the Jack Stack and the Freight House District, a lot of people have, dotted their I's and crossed their T's. So what you're seeing today, isn't a hope shot. It is instead the product of a whole lot of negotiations, a whole lot of discussion, including with businesses nearby. And I think that I'll just say this, Crown Center is included on purpose. And I look forward to how this can stimulate, everything in that area.
Okay. I understand how that works. All right. You mentioned, because you brought up the state of Missouri, the stadium, funding mechanism that they have, where they talk about funding 50%. Can you shed some clarity on Is that 50% of the overall project, or is that 50% of just the actual stadium cost?
This would just be the stadium, something that I appreciate a lot about the Kansas City Royals and how they're looking to do this. I think they've said that ancillary development is very important to them, and I think they are looking at putting real, substantial private dollars in it. So what we're talking about today in this ordinance is a stadium, is an office tower that relates to, opportunities for the team to use and others as they wish, but that's about it, and in terms of everything else around it, I think you will see probably in the days ahead, if not maybe the weeks, real discussion on what the ancillary development opportunity looks like, how many actors are going to be involved. And the biggest part to me, and I was texting with some friends and associates and people who sometimes complain to me all the time in the crossroads, who are small business owners who own restaurants and who are saying, heck yeah, right? This doesn't displace anybody. This just brings good activity in a place that frankly has been underutilized in that park, in that giant parking lot. And I think you're going to see real progress starting pretty quickly.
Estimated cost of $1.9 billion. The $600 million is a hard cap, right? So cost overruns, at least as far as Kansas City, Missouri is considered. If this project would get towards 2.2, 2.5, it's $600 million. That's as much as it's going to be, or that's how much it is, no matter how low or how high.
That is exactly. That is Kansas City's commitment on it. I think the state of Missouri, obviously, continues to be an important player in this. Jackson County provides another opportunity for engagement. But here's my jam, right? What you saw introduced today is the sort of thing that builds us an opportunity to deliver a stadium that has state support already through the Show Me Sports Investment Act, city support. And I see everything else as icing on the cake.
Okay, a couple other things here. It's one of the sections, Section 2, the terms of the term sheet may include but shall not be limited to, and it says responsibility for the design and construction of the stadium, ancillary development, necessary infrastructure support, including pedestrian bridges, transportation access, utility upgrades, traffic improvements, and similar infrastructure projects. I just want to be clear. Is that Kansas City, Missouri is going to fund it? That's where this $600 million may go, or the Royals are expected to fund that part of the equation?
Kansas City, Missouri is a big part of that, and so what we are talking about today is what Kansas City will fund. We understand that there are a lot of infrastructure issues in and around there that we will probably have to address at some point anyway. This is us looking to prioritize that to make sure we can help deliver a stadium efficiently. The state of Missouri, the Missouri Department of Transportation, I know that they know that there will be participation as necessary in connection with the project, and the Royals are always there, but we'll look for the Royals to do a lot of the private development. We own the roads, we own the sewers, we own all the sidewalks, and so we'll look to make sure that our investment really goes to making a difference in that space.
Same thing along the lines of responsibility for construction of parking facilities and coordination with existing businesses regarding parking rights?
That is largely correct. However, I'm excited about the parking prospect. I know a lot of people say, well, right now we get to park in a giant sea of parking. Obviously, both teams have said that is no longer the model they're looking for in the 2020s. And the excitement of downtown is you got 19,000 parking spots within 10 minutes of a walk from that park today. A whole lot of them are at Crown Center already. I think you got 3,000 of them at Union Station. You actually have a lot of your parking solutions there already. We have studied it 6 ways to Sunday. And I'll just say this, as a guy, I was in St. Louis last week. If the St. Louisans can figure out downtown baseball for 100 years, Lord knows, I think we're sharper and we can get it done too.
Well, I mean, I was in Phoenix a couple of weeks ago, and they have those Waymos, which are the driverless cars. I mean, I don't know that it'll be by the end of this 30-year lease, which we're 4 or 5 years away, but I'm not so sure any of us are going to own a car at some point. We're not just all going to be driving robot Ubers everywhere.
I'm with you, man. I think there are going to be some interesting things happening, and I think, frankly, to their credit, I think the Royals understand a lot of that too. So, that's where this, thing is going in Midwestern cities, southern cities as well.
Before we move off the infrastructure part of the equation, I know one of the big hurdles that if the Northland were involved, and I know that's not your territory, so I'm not asking you to comment on that, but there was going to be a lot of infrastructure that was going to be necessary as far as plumbing and all that kind of thing. This is an area that's got a lot of things already down there. Does that make it a little bit easier as far as, getting water and electricity and all the things that a stadium would need?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. I mean, it's to not get too boring, although, I know you got a lot of people in construction and engineering who listen to the show. I mean, oftentimes some of the hardest parts of a project is, how do you make sure that you have adequate utilities? How do you make sure that you have, a stadium ready for everybody flushing at about the same time? How do you make sure there's sufficient power hookup in downtown, where it is, where it sits, on its grid, has all of it figured out already, so we believe that will be advantageous as we build out our underground costs, utilities, and others. You won't have to deal with as many utility relocations, with where the site is. This is going to be different than T-Mobile Center and the Power and Light District, where when we tore it all down, we had to do a lot of work because there was a grid that we were working on, and I think that is how we can look credibly to how we have efficient delivery. That efficient delivery, it requires us to be pretty on point on all of our steps, make sure the right things pass, make sure we have consultants and design professionals who are ready to move quickly. But I have confidence in, look, if you want to see, American politics actually in some ways at its best, you got a Democratic mayor, a Republican governor, you got people of all different stripes, you got businesses, you got working class groups, including labor unions and others, who are saying, let's get this done, and we're committing to working together to do it.
Yeah, I know it's. Listen, I know it's not easy. I know it's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
I know something and I've already taken a call on it today. It's near and dear to my heart. I know it's probably even more near and dear to your heart from the conversations we've had in the past, and that's about public transportation, the streetcar. Do we extend that? Does that become a bigger vision? Do we add another car onto the streetcar? Do we get another line that will be part of it to help get people there to where the parking spaces won't be as necessary?
A joke I shouldn't share because he may get mad I mentioned it, but to the head of the streetcar authority, my staff today sent him a message and said, y'all need to order 5 more cars now. So we do look forward to upgrading our capacity. We recognize that'll be a part of it too. And the thing that I really like about the stadium downtown, and a lot of people have said this before, if you think about it, right, you have a lot of population that's not just in Casey-Mo, but northeast Johnson County, basically all the way Prairie Village, Leawood, and what have you, who actually have a good kind of path of going north-south through there. That's going to take care of a chunk of your traffic. People coming from further away on the highways, that works too, right? You have east-west, east-siders, people from the Northland. I mean, this site works for that. And public transportation, particularly for people who live between Brookside, downtown, Riverfront, all of that, is going to be a great solution for people being there. And importantly, for tourists to Kansas City. During the Yankees-Royals playoff series, I saw some guys that were just like walking down Stadium Drive in Yankees jerseys, and I was like, oh, good God. They think this is all walkable back to their hotel downtown or whatever. This is going to allow us to pitch so much more major events where you already have hotels, where you already have restaurants, where you already have it set up, and it's only going to make it better.
I saw 300 days listed somewhere as far as usage. There's only 81 games in a home season.
Correct.
How will we get to the 300 days?
Whole plan here is that, and look, and I actually appreciate the fact that the Chiefs have had this discussion already, so people kind of know about it. You're building entertainment areas, not just the area, but even in the stadium itself. Baseball is very conducive because it's conducive for a concert. It's conducive for a lot of those events that, right now are either potentially going to amphitheater spaces or just not coming to Kansas City. You have that. Obviously, in any type of discussion and design, we would look to things not just the Royals Hall of Fame and team store, but how can you create more opportunities for people to be part of it? A few years ago, I hosted a mayor's conference, and, as boring as that sounds, but, we had thousands of people here. We hung out at the women's soccer stadium. People absolutely adored it, and you see them booking events left and right. That's the sort of thing that I think the Royals get to do in this space now, as distinct from, and I'm a kid from Kansas City, so I love Kauffman Stadium. I know it is Royal Stadium, don't get me wrong. But, where that was a different type of experience, you were kind of going out there to be part of it. Now in the middle of it all, these can be events that are still part of a big conference at Bartle Hall, events that are part of a whole bunch of other stuff going on, and that's going to be great from a sales perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. We're talking to Mayor Lucas here in the program. I want to ask you one of the things, specific deadlines for stadium and team office design. It doesn't have a deadline. Do you have a feel for where you'd like that to be?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at the legislative activity at issue, I'll be admitted, we're going to be on a fast track. I want to make sure that we give our city leadership, our administrative side, the opportunity to negotiate a deal quickly. We're trying to lock down financing. I would hope that, these things may seem to go silent during the World Cup, but we'll be working. I hope you have your financial details and arrangements done by early to midsummer. I hope after that, then you're paying your design professionals. A lot of that work has already been done. You don't throw away all the things that have been drawn up before. And then, we know from our water department to our road people, we've hired our own consultants in the past to look at a lot of that traffic stuff. Everybody's ready. And I think it's just a question of when we can say go. And this gives us an opportunity for everybody to line up at the starting line to be ready for it.
I'm not trying to be negative here, but, at least for what I heard when we had the vote a couple of years ago, 2 years and 7 days ago, I think it was, people didn't necessarily love the plans, right? The Royals have put out a number of plans, and they weren't exactly wowing. I know some people were upset. Hey, where are the fountains? Where's the crown?
Yep.
Is it important for the Royals when they release their plans, hopefully much sooner rather than later, but for it to have a bit of a wow factor for people to really be on board with this?
Yeah, I think that, it is going to be important for people to be on board. And I say this at the core of public comment. And I've now been in politics, my God, longer than I should have been, but, for over a decade. And, when the public really detests something, we know. So, look, even if there's not a vote, right, we're going to have public meetings. We're going to have public hearings. People get a chance to come up and opine. And, I'm kind of testing the discussion today. A whole lot of people are saying this is great news. I think a lot of people thought it was heading the downtown direction anyway. And then there are others that I think are rightfully sharing that, we're ready for this next phase and we're ready to move forward in it. There was for people who, look, there's going to be a percentage of people, and it's a big one, and I respect them, who say there should be no stadium incentives. Maybe there shouldn't even be teams. Everybody should fund themselves. I respect them. I disagree. But for everyone else, I think that we are in a position today very different than 2024. You're not tearing down businesses. You're not displacing people. Frankly, there's been more time for the conversation about why downtown. And for those of us in Kansas City who care about this and retaining a team, I think that, frankly, you learned something from some humble pie on the Chiefs deal. There were a chunk of us who thought that perhaps they'd never leave Arrowhead Stadium. These teams have to make real business decisions. And so for the people who are kind of questioning would they ever go, and look, I appreciate John Sherman. I appreciate the Royals, but I know the mayors of Salt Lake City. I know the mayors of Nashville. I know the mayors of suburban communities. They'd love an opportunity like this. And so I think this is why the city and our state are putting our best foot forward to get this deal done, to lock this team down, and to make sure we can see some great baseball downtown.
Okay, a couple more here with Mayor Lucas. Community benefits to the Kansas City parks and boulevard system and public engagement. I think you've talked about, this being something that could impact all corners of Kansas City, Missouri. Like, what would I took another call earlier today where somebody said, I'd really like to make our parks better. We need better parks in KCMO. Like, what are you seeing there? What's your vision there?
Yeah, my vision there is very simple. Last time we had a stadium arrangement, there was all this conversation about what do community benefits mean. They met with any number of people, and I'm not sure, frankly, obviously, that didn't sell the public long term. For me, the story is that we're building a stadium in a park. Stadium in a park is a lot like Soldier Field. And when I've been to Soldier Field, I know you have too, but I went there for a Chiefs game. Frankly, I was impressed. I didn't know you could have like a trail that goes right up to it. I didn't know you had all those activities right there with it. And for us, I think the opportunity is not so much that we're just building around the park, although there'll be enhancements there, but for a kid who lives in northeast Kansas City, right, or a kid who's on the west side, how do we actually get more money stimulating our parks, investing in our parks? And for a lot of people, and I get it, my mom's one of them, who would say, I ain't going to that many games. But I get to say, yeah, but this is something that pumps money throughout the park system that allows us to invest in trails and other spaces, allows us to do things up north that we haven't done for years. And so that's why that is the central focus for what a community benefits agreement really looks like.
And then consulting with the businesses around, there's a section in that. We kind of touched on that. But it goes beyond just like, okay, we've got these parking spaces. It's when do the Royals get to use them, right? Like, when do they have to have their people out? And, are we going to shut down a street to make it one direction to get the flow coming in before the game and then one direction going out? That's the kind of thing we're talking about there?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, look, there's all the details you talk about. There's going to be another important detail, which is, when do you get access to the lot? What's the compensation going between different parties? Those conversations have been ones that have already been active, and I think that's something that you'll hear more on soon. But look, why I like this deal is this. No matter any of the other sites that have been talked about a lot in the press, with perhaps some of the exception of T-Mobile because they have a lot of parking too, but you would have to build a lot of garages. At going rate right now, we're paying about $50,000 per parking space in a parking garage, whether it be downtown, Kansas, North Kansas City, or whatever. That's just a cost. And to save ourselves $100, $150, $200 million just on parking garages. It means you get to invest that in the stadium, you get to invest that in the ancillary development, and long term, that's money that gets to go back into the community benefits in our park system all around Kansas City.
Yeah, okay. And I saw this, I didn't realize there's a $50 million fund, the state tax credit for contribution program. Maybe I should have come up with something if I'd have known there was $50 million to tap into there as well.
You know, man, it is a great time to be in the stadium building business. That's what I have learned from this. You know, I've been in some impressive rooms in recent years, and you know, it ain't your old rinky-dink, you know, throw up the Metrodome and everybody's just going to be happy with what you got. It's a new world, and that's all right. Kansas City's going to compete, and I think today's news means we're competing well in a way that's fair to our people.
All right, and then my last question before I give you my final four, or at least last 70. Are we going to get the cap on 435, 35? You know, going down on the south side of the
downtown.
loop?
Yep, you know what? We're still working on the cap. I think you will hear on that one. I mean, I love everything that's happening. You're going to hear some good news. I'll just tease it. You're going to hear some good news next week on that cap.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited about it. Some great Kansas City institutional people who are going to be involved. And, you know, look, downtown's going to be night and day difference from what we were all talking about 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about all of it for sure. And I for me, I've always thought one in Kansas, one in Missouri. It was a lot for Casey Mo, Jackson County, and the state of Missouri to carry. Now they don't have to do it all, and hopefully this will be best for everyone involved. All right, quick final four for you, Mr. Mayor. We're talking to Quentin Lucas here in the program. Where do the Royals finish in the American League Central this year?
Where do the Royals finish in the American League Central? Y'all can't let me get in trouble, man. I'm gonna.
You're a politician. You know the right answer.
Okay, yeah. I got my team in the room. They're like, you better say first, bro.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just do that, and not create any controversy.
There you go. I like that. All right. Tell me, what's your favorite Royals uniform out of the ones they wear? Now they got the City Connects and the powder blues. Yeah, you got a favorite?
You know what? I'm going to go, although I like the last version of City Connect, which, of course, had the Casey Mo logo in it. That's probably my favorite. It had a good style. Okay. I like that dark style.
Yeah.
Powdered blue, if you're going more traditional. That's what I grew up on, watching some greats about Royal Stadium back then.
Yeah. All right. What's your favorite city to visit? We know Kansas City's number one for all of us.
Yeah.
Where's the place you like to go visit?
You know, favorite city to visit for me, it's still big places. I like going to New York City. I like walking around. I like being somewhere where I can see a whole lot of different things, and where without spending $1, I feel like I can get one heck of a tourist experience.
All right, and after being the mayor, what's next for Quentin Lucas?
You know, people ask that question all the time. I think we're going to try to get that deal done, and after we're done with that, then, you know, we'll see what's ahead for me. But I got a good future no matter what it is. And for politics, I'm 41 years old. I'm pretty darn young, so I'm 40 years away from being able to run for president, whether it's Democrat or Republican.
Well played. Mayor, congratulations on this step. I know there's more work to be done. We can't wait to hear when it gets all done officially.
Hey, I appreciate it. Y'all stay well, and thanks for supporting our sports teams through all of this. Take care.
All right, the Lafayette Delicatessen, end of the hour answer on this date in 1974. This MLB owner apologized for the poor play of his team on the public address system. Who is he?
What year was this?
1974.
NFL owner?
Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball owner. 1974. Well, would that be, what's he from the A's?
Mm-mm.
Huh. George Steinbrenner?
Nope. There was a movie made about him, but not for his baseball ownership.
The Angels owner? Gene Autry?
Nope.
I don't know.
How about Ray Kroc?
Ray
of the San Diego
Kroc.
Padres. Yep.
Wow.
He said, quote, "Ladies and gentlemen, I suffer with you. I've never seen such stupid ball playing in my life."
And if you watch the story about him, apparently not a pleasant guy.
Nah. Nope.
The founder of, or the guy, the movie, the guy who stole McDonald's? That would be a little bit more appropriate to how it worked, and the former Padre owner.
Yep.
San Diego Padres owner, yeah. Interesting.
And his wife owned the team for many years after that.
Kurtis Seaboldt is at Nick and Jake's, where there's still time for you to win a $15 gift card and enter to win all of their big prizes. You can scan the QR code in the bar or go to nickandjakes.com/masters. 13 or 15, if there's an eagle, everybody gets a $15 gift card to use on your food. Not bad.
Not bad. Still got some guys coming up. Justin Rose is on 15 now. Scheffler and Woodland are through 15, but we still got a few more cracks at that.
I think Rose is on 15, and he's got about, I'm going to guess, a 20-foot putt for eagle.
Ooh. We might hear this place go crazy.
Yes, we might. We might hear it go crazy.
In fact, it's funny, you look around the bar, and everyone's kind of like that 3-2 pitch, bottom of the ninth. Everyone's kind of like, oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
The anticipation.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's so great about this event.
It's the best part. It's the best part. It's the best place to be to watch the Masters. Other than Augusta, it's right there at Nick and Jake's. Curtis is there at 135th and Metcalf. Wish I was there. Was supposed to be there, but with everything that was going on today with the story. By the way, again, thanks to Stephen St. John, Bethany Bowman, down covering the meetings and everything. And we didn't know when the mayor was coming, so we had to start taping things. We're going to hear from Jeff Pass. I'm going to tell you, we're not going to talk stadium with Jeff because we had to line things up because we didn't know when we were going to get the mayor. So thanks to Gary Parrish, thanks to Jeff Passon, who helped out and said, okay, we'll go early. We'll tape it up so that we could float it wherever we needed it so we could get Mayor Lucas on. But any reaction to the mayor's comments?
A few things. One, the first thing that kind of jumps out, I kind of listed some things in order. I'll go backwards. 300 dates seems very ambitious.
It does.
I was trying to look around and see what other downtown stadiums do, but I mean, 81 games, and that leaves 220. I don't know what you do. Concerts, and there's some things. I don't know how they're going to do 300 or what do they consider a date?
Yeah.
I mean, how much? What, is it an event like a Hall of Fame thing? Is that an event? It could be.
Yeah, it could be that within the stadium, like we have, the old Royals Club, I think they called it, and we have the, areas that are like venues within the stadium that have uses on game day, but maybe they're weddings or, who knows what it is. But
it could be.
I'm intrigued to see how we get to 300 dates. I think that's a good one. What else?
As far as the location and the things around it, he said they included Crown Center was included on purpose, so it sounds like that's going to stay. And
either going to stay or it's going to be the Royals are going to end up owning it, and maybe they tear it down, and that's part of what I mean. Who knows? But that is part. I mean, it sounds like I took that away like you did. That's part of the equation.
Yeah. And I've seen, obviously there's been no official renderings, but almost every idea that I've seen floated by anybody shows the ballpark being on the north edge of that space, and the part between the stadium and Pershing Road is more or less walk-up.
Okay.
Not really the stadium right up against the road.
Yeah. Still things to get past for sure, so we'll talk some more about it. We'll take a break, come back, give you the things you need to know, and, of course, Jeff Passon still to come as well.
All right, on this date in 1981, Fernando Valenzuela made his first career start. How many consecutive starts did he win to begin that season? Brought to you by La Feta Delicatessen.
Fourth quarter of the program begins right now. I'm broadcasting here at the studio. Kurtis is having all the fun at Nick and Jake's. Great spot for you to watch you some Masters all through the tournament. We've got folks making their way around 13 and 15. If there's an eagle at 13 or 15, you get a $15 gift card to Nick and Jake's. You can use it on any food purchase. And we've had a couple of them. Kurtis, you got a quick look at the leaderboard. You want to give us an update on where we stand as far as who's up at the top? Looks like it's pretty much the same from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, not much has changed. A few more people are in the clubhouse now, but it's still Sam Burns and Rory McIlroy by themselves at 5 under. There are 4 golfers at 3 under, including Jason Day, Patrick Reed, and Justin Rose. Rose is only on 14, though. And 4 golfers at 2 under. Shane Lowry and Xander Schauffele are done for the day. Scotty Scheffler and Gary Woodland are both on 14, so they're all within a shot. I don't see anybody else of note. Jordan Spieth, 1 under. But that's basically who's in the thick of the hunt right off the bat here as we get close to the end of day one. Yeah,
just to be clear, Scheffler and Woodland are at 2 under, right?
Yes.
So they're 3 off the
three back. Did I say 2 back?
Oh, you said just a shot, but I think you meant a shot back. I may not have listened closely. You may have meant a shot behind third place.
I thought I might have said 2 back and meant 2 under.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But either way, we cleared it up. Nick and Jake's the spot to be. Great food. Don't forget, Nick and Jake's, they're going to be opening. We'll talk to Kevin Timmons about this at some point. Late summer, early fall, the new Dick's Steak and Oyster. Fine dining, high-end steaks and seafood. A raw bar, oysters and seafood towers. Large bourbon and wine list. It's named after Nick and Jake's 2 grandfathers, who were both named Dick. It'll be opening in Leawood, Kansas, coming up later on. So more great eats and treats from the folks that brought you Nick and Jake's. I can't wait.
He walked behind me. He goes, you want a little jambalaya with the cavatappi to go? I just looked at him like,
yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
What do you think?
Absolutely.
He just smiled. He goes, okay. Because I think I know a guy.
Yeah, they've got all the Masters fare as well at Masters prices, so you can take advantage of that as well. Like the pimento cheese sandwich for $1.50, ham and cheese for $2. They are honoring the Masters prices there. All right, let's get to the things you need to know. First of all, we just had on Mayor Quentin Lucas. If you missed it, catch it on the podcast at 810WHB.com. New stadium, team offices, and supporting infrastructure. Funding for it from Kansas City, Missouri at the Washington Square Park / Crown Center area. TIF financing, tax increment financing plan being used to generate $600 million from Kansas City, Missouri. No vote is necessary for this. There's still 50% of stadium costs to come from the state of Missouri. Another $50 million fund that could be used from the state of Missouri to help fund this. So we're looking at well over $1 billion in funding from the city and the state of Missouri. There would be the entertainment district around it, looking to a project around $1.9 billion. That it would be, and feel like they've got the parking, feel like they've got everything else. I think they got a lot of momentum. I liked what I heard.
Sure.
I like the idea of 1 in Kansas, 1 in Missouri. I think that's a good idea. And, we'll see where it goes from here. Royals did respond and said they look forward to more meaningful discussions. So this is not a done deal, but certainly the people around this seem to feel like, we're in the 9th inning, to quote Mayor Lucas. So,
And the fact that the timeline is as abbreviated as it is makes me think that they don't think they're going to be in a lot of discussions with the Royals on everything.
You can shoot for opening by 30, but you do have a year to fall back on if it's not going to be ready to go. So 30 is the goal. 31 right now, I would say, sounds more realistic, but we'll see. We'll see how much they've already got done to make this happen. Check out our conversation with Mayor Lucas. It's the podcast, 810WHB.com, and on that 810 app, the 4 o'clock hour. I had Stephen St. John on, who's been reporting at it, did a great job all day. He and Bethany Bowman down covering the press conferences that were going on around the city council meeting. And then, of course, our conversation with Mayor Lucas is on that 4 o'clock hour podcast. Some other baseball news. Major League Baseball's average salary now at $5.34 million. Average salary. 5.34. Not a bad gig if you can get it. You know what I mean?
Nope.
Royals and White Sox tonight, 6:40 on Royals TV. Royals -178 favorite, White Sox +150. Seth Lugo against Anthony Kay. Kurtis, go ahead and tell us all about what Anthony Kay brings to the mound.
Well, he's a soft throwing lefty. He'll work you in and out, up.
You have no idea.
Up and down the strike. No. That's what Matt Stairs told me once when I asked him about Justin Verlander.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny.
We don't even know if he's left-handed.
I don't either.
No.
No idea.
NFL news: the Justice Department has begun an investigation into whether the NFL has violated anti-competitive practices with their television contracts, require consumers to pay subscription costs to watch games. This has been confirmed to ABC News. So, finally, bleeding us. What was it, 11 different platforms the NFL appeared on last year? 11. 11.
It goes to 11.
It went to 11. It sure did. College basketball news. Flory Badunga, one of the top players in the transfer portal, Michigan, has made his Final Four. I think what's of note is his Final Four, Michigan, Duke, St. John's, and Louisville. Maybe they're assuming Kansas is still in there, but they're not mentioning it. And the same is true of Bryson Tiller. The Field of 68 also reported that his Final Four includes Michigan as well, along with Miami, Arizona, and Kurtis?
M-I-Z.
M-I-Z. Wow. That'd be
something.
That would be some crime right there. Mizzou stealing a big man from Kansas. So we'll see. But not great news if you are a Jayhawk fan. All right, let's take a break. Always great news. We get to talk to Jeff Passan. He's next.
The program with Soren Petro.
Do the show, bitch.
Weekdays from 2 to 6 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Applause Custom Sight and Sound has been locally owned and operated for more than 20 years. That's right here in Kansas City. They're the very best when it comes to technology. Smart home technology, in-home theaters. You need rocket-fast Wi-Fi, integrating everybody in the home. How about being able to work outside? It's one of the things I love to do. We've got beautiful weather right now. I like to go sit outside on our patio and work on my computer. I can do it because Applause hooked us up with rocket-fast Wi-Fi.